Hello, hello, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, I'm going to be unusually formal today on the Aiden Linden program. No, I'm just joking. How's everybody doing today? How is everybody hanging this fine Thursday, 12th of March, 2026? Professor Hizzle says that he's here for that smooth sax, and meanwhile, spooky bed hair and re-examination seem to be striking up what seems to be a sea shanty, oftentimes heard on 18th century pirate ships. So, shout out to them for repping the pirate community. You know, very chronically underrepresented group of people, if you ask me. Well, I hate to disappoint, ladies and gentlemen, but for as much as I wanted this show to have some Aiden versus Andrew Wilson content, that was not the case. I waited in the wings for about an hour over on Speakeasy, maybe an hour and a half, while they were doing the Q&A. And hey, don't get me wrong, he was raking that shit in. Fat super chat after fat super chat. And I mean the PH fat, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not talking the regular fat. Hey, Pixie. How's it going? Hope you're doing well today so far. But yeah, he was raking that shit in, so I really can't blame him whatsoever for dragging the Q&A segment out a little bit longer and also giving Andrew and his opponent an opportunity to kind of have a bit more of a discussion regarding things. Now, Andrew's opponent got absolutely fucking destroyed, absolutely slaughtered in that conversation. So I decided that I was gonna take up the torch and head on into the open panel segment. And it went about as well as to be expected when you're in a room with, I don't know, like 5 or 6 other people who disagree with you. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not going to bitch and complain and act like, oh my god, I was so horribly persecuted, right? Because that wasn't the case. But naturally, when you're one person taking a position against 5 or 6 other people who have a different one, you can't get much of a word in edgewise. And naturally, as a result, unfortunately, I don't really think it'd be super productive if I played the segment. I will just state for the record, I called some people out on some things that weren't true, and they called me out on one thing that, while it wasn't untrue, it is in fact true that the Department of Justice removed files, a particular study, rather, from their records pertaining to right-wingers causing more politically oriented violence than left-wingers. While that's the case, I did get wrong the idea that that initially came from Congress or the House of Representatives. Now, a member of Congress submitted it to a member of the House submitted it to house.gov. So it had the impression that it was directly from them. But we found out upon doing some digging that it was actually from the Hill, not originally from Congress. So while the information that I was conveying was correct, where it was from and where I purported it to be from was wrong. So yeah, I got corrected on that. I corrected some people on misinformation and disinformation. I corrected people on Tsarist Russia, the Soviet Union, how certain policies are not inherently indicative of fascism and can be found within other movements as well. Specific examples of violence that the right wing has committed on the left. So yeah, it was an interesting conversation, and I would encourage people to go and check it out, but I don't really think it's going to be super productive if I play that on the show. So with that in mind, yeah, go check it out if you'd like, and go check out Speakeasy's channel, just in general. He's a cool guy. I appreciate the fact that he allows people to have such a wide variety of different debate topics. So yeah, go check him out. And with that being said, I will not drag this introduction out any longer than need be. Let us start with our first segment.
These are the actual. It's Trump without Trump. These are the actual words of the President of the United States of America. You won't have to see his face or hear his voice. This quote is from the Oval Office press conference from Monday, August 25th, 2025. You come here from Iowa. You come here from Indiana. You come here from Idaho because you're so proud of your country. You love your country. And then you get murdered. Your son gets murdered. Your daughter gets murdered. And you get murdered. See the media? You get murdered. Many of you have been mugged in Washington. You just don't want to talk about it. And I know that every time I do this with you, you almost have everything. But every time I do this with you, you people are saying to yourselves, he's right. He's right. And then you write a negative story. Donald J. Trump. And then they'll spend hundreds of millions of dollars on a road. I'll spend about $2. And it will look better. Donald J. Trump. And we want it spotless for the World Cup and for the Olympics. You said the World Cup was here the other day, and come to think of it, there's your trophy for the World Cup. In fact, it's solid gold. That's actually solid gold, so heavy that some of the people in this room wouldn't be able to lift it up. I think that's what I'm going to do, is place it right there above the angel, right over there. That's how we're going to put it right up there. Look at that solid gold trophy. They know how to get me. You know. Donald J. Trump. Just a quick note, the FIFA trophy is not pure gold. It's not solid gold either. It's hollow, and that's a reproduction. The original trophy remains with FIFA.
Did she call it FIFA? Come on. Come on. Like, Juliet. Come on. It's FIFA. These people, they want to correct me, but they can't even pronounce FIFA. They call it FIFA. They don't even know what they're saying. They want to go, oh, I know about the trophy. I know about the World Cup. That's not a real one. It's a reproduction. But you know what, folks? They can't even pronounce the name of the organization. That's how sad these horrible lefty loonies really are. By the way, folks, I know likes, and I know show engagement and show interaction. And you know, even though I'm not capable of reading beyond a 3rd grade level, I am in fact capable of reading what's on the screen below. Please hit like on the stream and subscribe if you are enjoying. Join the Frog Revolution today, folks. That's right. You love it. I love it. Everybody loves it. $2 roads, ladies and gentlemen. He's going to build a $2 road. And you know what? That road, it's going to look better. Even though we only spent scant $2, 2 dinero on that road. Looks a damn sight better than whenever them Democrats are putting up what in the New York and whatnot. Anyways, let's move on to our next segment. To begin our silly segment, the Frog Revolution, it killed Marie Antoinette. And you know, some people, they say that that's a bad thing. They say that that's a tragedy. But Marie Antoinette, she was a domestic terrorist, folks. She said, eat the cake. Eat the cake is what she said. And you know, I'm not one for cake myself, folks. I'm more of a McDonald's man myself. Anyways. Which way is Iran? Asks pantsless, sword-wielding Trump, wandering on side of freeway. You know, congratulations, The Onion. I really got to give it to you. Because even in a world as absurd as this, you've still managed to make a story that is more entertaining and more absurd than the world around us that we're already dealing with. Washington, in a chaotic scene that left motorists confused and alarmed. Witnesses along Interstate 495 reported Tuesday that President Donald Trump was seen wandering pantsless on the shoulder of the freeway, holding a ceremonial sword straight out in front of him and asking passing drivers, "Which way is Iran? Woman, tell me if Iran is to the left of you or if it's to the south." The commander-in-chief yelled at a morning commuter, adding that he'd walked through many lands on his quest to wage war, including Germany, the desert, and a country where everyone was wearing scarves. Very scary, folks. You know, you don't see that when you're walking down Fifth Avenue. When you're walking down Fifth Avenue, you don't see the scarf people, but I was there. They were all in them. I'm getting very close. I can smell it. Soon Iran will know the taste of my tremendous weapon. America is counting on me. America is counting on me. And I will prevail. When Secret Service agents arrived and attempted to wrap a blanket around the president's waist, Trump reportedly swatted them away with his sword and charged down a busy on-ramp, shouting, "We're here! We're entering enemy territory!" Yeah, this is my charge of the brigade moment, folks. I'm gonna charge down the field. I'm taking it back. Alexander the Great. He was done wrong when the Achaemenid Persian Empire fell apart, folks, and I'm taking it back. I heard Andrew retreated from Aden because of bone spurs. Not quite gravelly enough. Hold on. I got a second B.S. Lewis comment to do a take two on that one. Sorry about that. I need some water. I don't even have any water. Let me make a sexist remark about how I don't have any water like Andrew Wilson did the other day because women inferior, am I right, guys? No. Attempt number 2. I didn't feel like being cocked last night. Nope, I don't have the gravel. Hold on a second, ladies and gentlemen. I'm pulling a Peter. I'm grabbing my water. I don't even have my woman to get my water for me. Can you believe it? This is the world that the Democrats want us to live in, folks. A world where I gotta not only go and get my water, but I gotta go and fill it up right now while the stream is going on. Extremely unprofessional. Extremely unprofessional. Let me tell you, you haven't seen unprofessionality like this since Sleepy Joe and the Auto Pen, ladies and gentlemen. Alright, I've got the water. I've got the water. It's been acquired. Another glorious victory for the American people, folks. Yet another one. And no water will ruin it. I don't know, dude. We'll see. No, water will ruin it. Now you're just gonna say that it was worse no matter what. That's what's gonna happen. You should have a cigarette. I know, dude. I said it last night, and I'll say it again, man. Fucking, the only thing more orange than Trump's skin tone is Andrew Wilson's walls with the amount of cigarettes that guy's fucking lighting on that stream, dude. Holy shit. He went through half a pack over the course of, like, fucking the fraction of the debate that I watched. Holy shit. That guy is gonna fucking have a CPAP machine going in one of his streams at one. Yeah, you know, the thing is about force and the use of force, man. He's gonna have to start asking for $100 super chats to pay for his new CPAP machine. But anyways, I want to continue my musical segment that I started on the previous stream. I've got to enlighten the people on different trends, different artists of the musical realm. Let's take a look at this particular example here. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is Miles Davis. Kind of Blue. Wow. Go and check it out, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to give us one or two more opportunities to hear that beautiful rendition there. Wow. Isn't that beautiful? Isn't that beautiful? I respect Andrew for not jumping on the vape train. You know what? Fair enough, man. Fair enough. I can't. I do kind of, even though it's like a horrible, disgusting habit, and it like ruins whatever environment you're around. There is just a gravitas to sitting there with a fucking cigarette in your hand that no vape will ever be able to capture. You know what the closest to that shit is? And it still doesn't hold a candle. There's these vapes that they've got nowadays that kind of look like a corncob pipe, and you like tap on it in order to fucking activate it. Like, that's kind of classy. You can kind of make that a little classy, especially if you like lean into like the retro futurist aesthetic. And it's like, oh yeah, I've got a corncob pipe, but it's all chrome. Like, it's kind of like fucking cyberpunk at that point. You know, I can see somebody making that work. But you're right, BS. There's just a gravitas about sitting there with a cigarette in your hand that no vape will ever be able to fully capture. You should have seen him in person. He was frantically chewing gum like it was life. Oh man, he was on the Zinni, wasn't he? He was on the Zinni, or he was on the nah. He had dip. That's what you know. What, Andrew Wilson doesn't do Zins. You're right. In the same way that he doesn't vape, nah. Andrew ain't on the Zinni. He's fucking taking all the chew. He's packing that fucking lip like fucking a bunch of Mexican migrants in a goddamn minivan on the border. That's how much he's packing that goddamn lip. Exactly. Vapes look like a mini CPAP. Yes. Most modern vapes that are all like blocky and shit, like those look like shit. You look like a douchebag when you hit those things. There's no like way of making that look even remotely cool. It's not gonna happen. So, agreed. The same goes for like joints and blunts and stuff like that. Like, you're never gonna look as cool hitting a bong. You're never gonna look as cool fucking taking a rip off of like a dab pen as you are just hitting a fat blunt. Because then you look like Fidel Castro or some shit like that. You know? Kind of got that fucking Cuban dictator vibe about you when you're fucking hitting a big fat blunt. Anyways, moving on to our next part of the silly segment. Oh, please, the joint wins. I mean, yeah, obviously. Vape equals tire pressure gain. That is, you know what? You just fucking hit the nail on the head, dude. You just hit the goddamn nail on the head because that's exactly what they look like. Hold on. You know what? Just to prove the point that re-examination is making there. I mean, uh, yeah. Yeah, it checks out. Hold on. Most of them were analog when I did the first search results. So I had to look up electronic tire pressure gauge. Let's take a quick look here, ladies and gentlemen. Yep. Yep. I mean, there's one here that's like, okay, that's like a pretty regular one. But yep. I think the claim checks out pretty well, if I do say so myself. Thank you very much. Re-examination. For that enlightening and very poignant comment, sir. Anyways, moving on. We've got Chase Passive Income. And you know, this guy, while I've been like ragging on hustle culture and saying that, like, you know, it's no good, it really promotes like a lifestyle where you just kind of feel hollow and you don't really have any meaning or a purpose in life besides like short-term monetary gain. This guy has got this shit fucking down pat, because listen to this. Was on a flight and someone clogged the toilet. Smelled horrible. The crew had to call in a tactical mid-air plumbing service that charges $57,000 per hour. Guess who owns the plumbing service? And guess who clogged the toilet? There are levels to this game. And you know what? Can you fucking deny it? Can you deny it, folks? This guy, he's got it. He's got it down pat. Anyways, moving on to our final part of the silly segment. By the way, any of you that have just dropped into the stream, if you're enjoying it, please do drop a like. It would be much appreciated. But yeah, moving on to our next segment here. We have got a good example of a reasonable police interaction. Now, if you know internationally what police cars look like, you'll know immediately that this isn't an American police car. But, you know, good example of somebody having an interaction with the police. I just came across this on my fucking regular YouTube shorts, by the way. I just decided to pull this for the show. But let's see what happens here.
Biker thought he was getting a ticket until the officer changed his mind.
Right.
Hi.
That standard of driving wasn't good, was it?
Sorry?
What's the speed limit?
20.
And how fast did you go?
25, 30?
No, we've had to do about 80 to catch up with
80?
you. Yeah.
Possible.
This biker confirms it with his video that he was driving under the limit.
So, if you get stopped again for speeding,
Yeah.
it shows that we've already stopped you for speeding.
Yep.
You're getting a ticket.
Sure.
Right. So, we'll leave it for a warning just for today,
Yeah.
but anything in the future,
Yep.
there's going to be issues, alright?
Yeah, sure.
Now, don't get me wrong, is that perfect? No. I don't think this guy should have to, like, endure any punishment whatsoever if he didn't do anything wrong. If he showed that he was under the limit while his cop was saying that he was going 80 in order to catch up. Or she, rather, was the one that made the initial claim. The male officer is the one that's talking to him now. But in spite of that, I really do think that in America, if you had interactions with a lot of different police officers, that wouldn't have been the case at all, right? The interaction would have been basically something akin to, oh, you have videos showing that you're fucking went under the limit. Well, I'm still going to give you this ticket and you can fight it in civil court, basically. You can go to traffic court and you can fight it there. There's so many instances of that being the case in the United States where people are wrongfully charged, and even just for minor traffic violations, and even if they have proof that they can show the officers, they still end up having to go to civil court and either get it litigated there via the officer not showing up, which does happen fairly frequently. The officer just straight up won't show up to their own case. Or if they do show up, they'll just play the video to the judge and it'll get litigated there. But how is that anything short of a massive waste of taxpayers' time? To have to go and drag it into a court case and have to waste time for a judge. And I don't have the example that I'm referring to right here. I do have it somewhere in my freaking history where this exact thing that I'm describing happened in the United States, where he goes to court and he talks to the judge about how, oh, well, now that I've demonstrated proof that I wasn't doing the thing that this officer accused me of, can I have him added to the Brady list so that he can't testify in future cases against other people because he's been demonstrated to be a bad actor as a police officer? And rather than being helpful to the guy whatsoever, the judge basically goes, oh, well, yeah, you could go ahead and do that via making a complaint to the police department. So, rather than having any external source to be able to hold these people to account, you basically have to go to the corrupt police department that investigates itself in order for them to find any wrongdoing with the circumstances and have them added to the Brady list. It's like, don't you think there's a slight conflict of interest there? I think there's a slight conflict of interest there, but hey, maybe that's just my crazy leftist tendencies talking. Big Bad Mama says, hi, Pixie and all. Hi, Big Bad Mama. Welcome to the stream. Hope you're doing well. Spooky giving a warm welcome. British cops give you a cup of tea and a bacon sandwich when they stop you. You know what? I've told the story on a couple of other shows. I don't know if I've told it here, but when I was in Bath in the UK, I was going to go and see, namesake of the town, the Roman bathhouse there, that, the ruins thereof, anyways. And on my way back to Plymouth, which was where I was staying, there was a fight on the other side of the station that I was at for Great Western Railways. And the guys had a scuffle, and there was even a knife drawn, and the guy that was scuffling with him ran away. But the guy that was agitated with the knife, he didn't threaten anyone or anything, but he was going around, he was pacing around, and he just was in a very obviously agitated state where several trains came. He could have gotten on them, but rather than getting on the train, he just stayed there and just paced around in circles. And the cops came, and rather than drawing a gun, which is almost certainly what would have happened in America if a similar set of circumstances happened, rather than drawing a gun, they literally talked to the guy, and they talked him down and said, hey, what's going on? Why did you do that? Can you just sit down with us for a second here? Like, they disarmed him. They got the knife away from him. Not by force, by the way. They asked for it, and he provided it to them. And then they sat down and had a conversation. And that was at that point, while they were having a conversation, that I got on my train. And I was like, holy shit. They didn't pull a gun. They didn't pull a taser. They didn't have to use any kind of force whatsoever. They de-escalated the situation and just talked to the guy and treated him like a person, rather than going, get on the fucking ground, you piece of shit! Like, you fucking have 3 different fucking cops, all with guns or tasers, if they're really trying to use restraint. They'll have fucking tasers drawn on the guy. And go, get on the fucking ground! Yell and scream at the guy. How is that a de-escalation of the situation? Not once did they raise their voices at that guy, because he never raised his voice at them. For all I know, the guy that ran away was actually trying to fuck over the guy with the knife. I have no idea. Because I wasn't privy to the conversation beyond the fucking yelling that escalated the situation before he ran away. So I, like the police officers in that situation, had very little context as to what the fuck was actually going on. So with that little context, rather than trying to escalate the situation, they just treated it appropriately and talked to the fucking guy. Aiden's Batman origin story, except he's a frog, fell into a well full of frogs. Parents were taken out by a Salamander's sidekick with frog meringues. I police the police. I can't even think of a frog version of Batman, quite frankly. Nope. No, I'm gonna have to turn that one around in the mind. I can't claim that if I tried a bit like that, it would just flop on its face. Probably worse than the guy would have flopped around if they tased him, if the exact same problem would have happened in the United States rather than the United Kingdom. Hey, there's a decent segue. Anyways, moving on to our next part of the silly segment and the beginning of the transition away from the silly segment, because, you know, as a trans supportive channel, I don't want to have hardline changes from one segment to the other, especially the silly segment. You know, we live in a day and age where people have to deal with enough bullshit as it is. They have to go through enough tumult in the everyday existence that we call life. So let's try and gracefully transition away with this fine image right here. We see right here, folks, why I call him Little Marco. Little Marco, even though he's a little guy, he's got the big shoes. You know what that means, folks. When they've got the big shoes, that means that they've got something else going on there, folks. No, unfortunately not. It actually turns out... It turns out that they just don't fit him at all, whatsoever. Look at them. Look at them. I mean, this guy could afford quite easily to go and get himself a pair of shoes that fit him properly. But you know why he didn't get a pair of shoes that fit him properly? Well, because a certain person gave him these shoes. When they commented on their shoes, they looked at him and they said, "Those are shitty shoes that you've got right there, little Marco. Those are shitty shoes, and I'm going to give you brand new ones." And these are the ones that little Marco got. And they don't fit him at all. So let's find out why they don't fit him in this accompanying little article that I pulled for our fine program. By the way, welcome, Mr. Logo.
Hello, Aiden. How are you today?
Oh, I'm doing quite well. Well, I'm covering Marco Rubio's absurd clown shoes, so it has to be a good day to some extent, right? I mean, how much more obvious can the symbolism be that this administration is full of clowns when they're literally going around wearing clown shoes? You know? But anyways, Marco Rubio.
I don't know what
Sorry,
I'm worried. I don't know what Reza is doing, and with Salami, what I met back in Iran, and a boy who was always like getting ice cream, and you know, I don't have contact today anymore, but sometimes I'm thinking about what are they all doing now today, right? I mean, maybe they are in different departments, they work somewhere or something, you know.
Mr. Logo, we're in the silly segment right now, sir. There's gonna be a segment all about that. Don't you worry.
I disturbed your silliness.
It's true. It's true. You can't kill the vibe, Mr. Logo. Now, don't get me wrong. What you're saying, it's very important, and it needs to be said. All I ask is that we just practice a little bit of segregation and keep that over to the next segment where we are covering things like the Iran conflict. I think that's fairly reasonable.
Yeah, I agree. Yes.
All right. So with that in mind, let's keep things going. Marco Rubio's giant shoes have people asking one question: who bought them? Photo of Secretary of State Marco Rubio wearing what appears to be comically oversized dress shoes are going viral. As Rubio leaned over to say something to a man at the Capitol Visitor Center on Wednesday, a photographer caught an unfortunate angle on his Florsheim shoes. The rumor fueled by a recent report that President Donald Trump enjoys publicly guessing age shoe sizes before ordering them. His preferred brand has led commentators to joke that the ill-fitting shoes look less like a fashion choice and more like a loyalty test, which is exactly what they are. It's exactly what they are. It's humiliation. It's public humiliation. Which, by the way, isn't that one of the major monikers of a cult? Is to go out and humiliate members of the cult in order to test whether or not they'll stay true to the cult in spite of the fact that they got humiliated by the cult leader. Like, that's a well-established trend among different cults.
I heard that Trump values loyalty over intelligence and over anything else, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Which is in principle autocrat's behavior, right?
Oh, absolutely, it's perfectly in keeping with autocratic.
Mustache Man also did that with even with his best friend, right? The Ernst Röhm, right? He got rid of him,
right?
And that's even a euphemism, right? His oldest long-term friend, right? When this SR, that Sturmabteilung, became like not so, like he was maybe worried that he might have too much influence,
right?
Right.
And I mean, much the same is occurring in the modern context as well. As a matter of fact, I have multiple stories pulled that illustrate exactly that. However, Spooky Bed Hair says in the side chat, Aiden is pro-segregation. Interesting. Look, you're taking it out of context, Spooky Bed Hair. I'm not going to have you here quote mining me right now on the show. I'm not going to accept that. I'm going to throw you out. No, I'm not actually going to throw you out. You're a very valued member of the community, Spooky. I'd never do that to you. If the shoe doesn't fit, wear it anyway. Images of the ill-fitting footwear started spreading online in the early hours of Wednesday morning. Close-ups show the back of one shoe coming far off Rubio's heel in a way that you'd only tend to see on kids wearing big siblings hand-me-downs. The popular X user, commonly known as the newswear guy, had to weigh in, but only reposted the photos with a simple, that's great. It's very relevant. People definitely had questions. Folks in high positions within the U.S. government typically spend a good deal of time and money making sure that they look like big boys. Spending as little as $145, the price point of some Florsheims, on dress shoes is something an average person would do, not the American Secretary of State. Some found answers in a Wall Street Journal report from Monday. And you know what? I really don't even like the commentary on how expensive the shoe is. Honestly, that might even be like a rare opportunity for the administration to be like, look, I'm wearing the shoe of the everyman. You know, like at least like make a half-hearted overture to the idea that they like think about the working class on a passive every, like 45-day kind of basis. I don't know. Probably less, probably significantly less. But anyways,
I think Rubio's only target is Cuba, right? Because of that embarrassment of that Bay of Pigs incident in the 60s, right?
Right.
And he is from Cuba originally, as far as I know. Is that
I think
correct?
Rubio was correct. I think that's correct.
Yes. So his only goal and in principle the only target of that administration is Cuba.
Yeah. Well, and then he also appeals to a lot of Cuban nationals, which is a big reason why he's in the administration right now, even though Trump spent loads of time deriding him on the campaign trail.
And interestingly, this another parallel. Mustache Man also had only one target. The other one was all like done for him, like he had to, but he didn't like to, like Denmark and Belgium and France and all these. And that horrible Battle of Britain. He then said Britain's situation is hopeless when they had 22 what is that Air Force squadrons left, right? He can now, and his only goal was Russia, always
Right.
from start on. So it seems another parallel that they have one target what they are hooked on, such autocratic and authoritarian regimes, right?
Right.
One fetish, so to say, and that's what they are heading for. And the rest is some that they have to do that, but they don't like it.
Claude says, if the shoe fits, don't wear it. I like the phrase. I thought about this pretty soon. I'm sure somebody's already made the joke somewhere else. But the thing that sprang to my mind was, if the shoe doesn't fit, you must not acquit. That's what I thought of when I saw this. Let's see.
Am I not right with that? Am I right?
No, I already said. No, I already said. No, you are correct about that. That's true. I agree with your assessment on those things. Some found answers in a Wall Street Journal report from Monday. According to anonymous White House insiders, Trump has made a habit of publicly... Oh, I already read this part. And just some more examples of what I was talking about before. And I think that's about everything that I needed to cover as far as that particular segment is concerned. Now, we're going to start seriously transitioning away from the silly segment with our final, I call it half silly, because although it is funny, it is also true. It says Trump has sued over 4,000 people for defamation. And then in the next one says Trump has sued 0 people for calling him a PDF file.
Yeah, there's a channel on YouTube which is called Resisting Trump's Stupidity. And he's living in that just across the road from Mar-a-Lago in Florida. And he said that several times. He said he will not sue you for that because it's true.
Yeah. I mean, of course he's not going to sue them, because if he sues them, the bar for defamation is extremely high in the United States. You have to prove that the person not only did not misleadingly inform people, like as far as them being misinformed, you have to prove that they weren't misinformed when they informed people about those things. And you have to prove that they were actively trying to damage your reputation by doing that, and prove that beyond any reasonable doubt that the things that you are being accused of did not take place. So the bar for meeting defamation in the United States makes it pretty apparent why Trump hasn't, in fact, sued any people for calling him a PDF file. So moving on to our next one here. This is the beginning of our little Epstein segment that we have here. I've got 2 things pulled for that. First one is new satirical statue depicts Trump and Epstein as doomed lovers from Titanic. Have you seen this, Mr. Logo? Have you seen the
I
statue
read
that
some
came out?
article today about that. They put that up, and tourists are already taking photos of this.
Yes, absolutely. Latest sculpture titled King of the World includes plaques with pointed commentary on pair's past association. And I think it's such a great parody of the golden statue that they put up of Trump right outside of, I'm pretty sure it was the was it the, I don't think it was the Supreme Court. It was one of the, I think it was the Capitol building that they put that in front of. So I think it's a great little piece of satirical commentary on the big, beautiful gold statue of Trump that they have in Washington right now. A woman's heart is a deep ocean of secrets. The appearance of a golden statue depicting Donald Trump and the disgraced financier Jeffrey Epstein, as doomed lovers from the movie Titanic, is confronting Washington with a murkier mystery. The nearly 12-foot sculpture, unveiled on Tuesday on the National Mall, is the third piece of guerrilla art satirizing Trump's past relationship with Epstein, attributed to the Secret Handshake, a shadowy collective whose members remain anonymous. It is not known if the statues are related to a Jeffrey Epstein Walk of Shame recently installed on Farragut Square, a public park close to the White House, that featured Hollywood-like stars with the names of prominent figures tied to Epstein. Oh my goodness, hold on. Let me take a look at this really quick. Jeffrey Epstein Walk of Shame appears in public park. See, this is one of the many ways that you hold these people to account, is through satire. It is an important part of political commentary because it is a poignant reminder to people of these people and the crimes that they committed. A Jeffrey Epstein Walk of Shame was installed last week in Farragut Square, a public park close to the White House, naming and shaming public figures associated with the late child sex offender and trafficker. The display comes amid intense scrutiny of the Epstein files, following the Department of Justice's release of more than 3 million pages on January 30th detailing the activities of Epstein and his network of associates. Sidewalk stickers posted at each corner of the park welcomed commuters and visitors to the exhibition. The installation, inspired by the Hollywood Walk of Fame, displayed stickers shaped like stars featuring prominent politicians, billionaires, and celebrities tied to Epstein. Each star carried a QR code that directed visitors to specific entries in the Epstein files or news articles detailing their connection to him. Instead of an emblem representing their field of work, the center of each star depicted Epstein's headshot. While being named in the Epstein files does not necessarily imply wrongdoing, it could suggest involvement in or enabling Epstein's crimes. Except for Ghislaine Maxwell, none of Epstein's friends or associates have been criminally prosecuted in the United States, fueling outrage over the lack of accountability. It remains unclear who created the installation and when it will be removed. So yeah, some more photos of it. People scanning the QR codes to check out who these people are. Uh-oh. Looks like we've already got one that's Elon Musk's star is the only one whose sticker has been torn off, although the QR code remains intact. That's funny. That's funny. Of course, some disgruntled fucking incel probably came around and was like, "Oh my god, Mr. Musk! I can't have him being on the Walk of Shame." They couldn't even bother with the fucking QR code, so people are probably going to be more interested in that one now. You want to talk about the fucking Streisand effect? Which one are people going to be more interested in? The one that is different from all the other ones because it got blatantly defaced? Last I checked, that's probably going to be the case. So way to go, dude. You just drew way more attention to it. What an idiot. Anyways, going back to our previous story, that was a nice little tangent to go on there. It is not known if this... Oh, wait, I already read that part. Recently installed in Farragut Square, a public park close to the White House that featured Hollywood-like stars and the names of prominent figures tied to Epstein. But together, the interventions appear determined to keep the Epstein files where Trump's name appears thousands of times, not thousands of times, tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of times, in the public spotlight, despite the war in Iran and myriad other distractions. The latest sculpture recreates the famous scene from the 1997 blockbuster Titanic, in which the lovers Jack and Rose, played by Leonardo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet, stared at the prow stand at the prow of the ill-fated ocean liner, with Jack proclaiming, "I'm the king of the world!" Trump stands behind Epstein with arms outstretched as the pair face the distant spire of the Washington Monument, mounted on a replica of the bow of the ship. The installation, titled King of the World and spray-painted gold, is accompanied by plaques offering a pointed commentary on the pair's past association. Quote, "The tragic love story between Jack and Rose was built on luxurious travel, raucous parties, and secret nude sketches," one reads. "This monument honors the bond between Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein, a friendship seemingly built on luxurious travel, raucous parties, and secret nude sketches." Nearby, a row of 10 banners displays a photograph of Trump and Epstein together, along with the slogan, "Make America Safe Again." Each bears the insignia of the Department of Justice with the word "justice" conspicuously redacted. The secret handshake reportedly uses intermediaries to intermediaries, there we go, to secure permits from the National Park Service. Last September, the artists erected a statue called "Best Friends Forever," showing the two men holding hands, with one leg kicked playfully behind them. Oh, look at that. Oh, I can't look at it because it's Washington Post. Hold on. You can look at it really briefly before it hits you with the paywall. Isn't that a thing? Oh, it linked me to the Guardian. Why did it link me to the Guardian this time, but the freaking other one last time? What the heck? Look at that. Isn't that a thing of beauty right there? Showing the two men holding hands. In January, they placed a giant replica of a crude birthday message allegedly sent to Epstein in 2003 and signed Donald. Trump has denied writing the note, saying the signature was not his. The Washington Post newspaper reported that the permit for the new installation lists a start date, but curiously has its end date blacked out, leaving it unclear how long the statue might remain on the mall, or whether the redaction itself is part of the artist's stunt. The White House swiftly condemned the display. Abigail Jackson, a deputy press secretary, suggested the work reflected a political double standard. Quote, "When will these wealthy Democrat donors create sculptures of Democrats who continued to solicit money in meetings from Epstein after he was convicted as a sex offender?" So literally just the classic whataboutism that you hear from everybody all the time. What about the Democrats, though? It's like, yeah, the Democrats aren't the fucking sitting president of the United States of America right now, though, are they? So there's a little bit of context there that kind of needs to be talked about. In any case. Moving on, I just thought that was a great story to pull for this. Moving on to our next one, however.
You know what would be interesting, Aiden? That interview from Gavin Newsom in that World Economic Forum, because he really says some stuff there.
Oh, do you have that?
It's been a month already. Yeah, there's a video, DRM News, for discussion. Gavin Newsom slams Trump's authoritarian in an explosive World Economic Forum interview. And he says some interesting things. He says he's like almost like a warning, like, Americans, you will lose your country.
Can you
continue?
Can you send that to me on the private chat so that I can pull that?
Yes, I will. Let me see. I will try.
Yeah, the private chat is just it should be on the bottom left corner of your screen in the restream. So hopefully you'll be able to link that there, because I will pull that for sure. So I'll just read that while you're doing that. Bondi criticized after saying all Epstein files have been released. The U.S. Department of Justice, or DOJ, has said that it's released all of the files required by the Epstein Files Transparency Act, but lawmakers have argued the release is insufficient. A letter sent to members of the U.S. Congress on Saturday from U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi and her deputies said all documents held by the DOJ had been released. It contains a list of names appearing in the files. Wait, a list of names? But I thought that there was no Epstein list. I was on a show last night where I was told very confidently by a bobblehead Trump supporter that there was no list of names, that it was all just a bunch of emails. So the idea of an Epstein list in of itself is ridiculous. I mean, it was pretty easily refuted, even in the moment, just by saying that a compilation of all the names found within those emails is in fact a list, is it not? But even then, according to this, it turns out that there was a list. Funny how that works. Oh, here we go. Oh boy, this is a 30-minute interview. I don't know if I can cover this whole thing because that's a lot. But
No, part of it is already like a lot.
Well, is there any particular parts that you would like highlighted? Just because that's going to be a lot to play and cover a whole 30-minute segment on there. I mean, I'm sure. Hold on. Gavin Newsom slams Trump's authoritarianism.
I think this is so full with stuff. And there was an earlier interview, like quite at the beginning, where he said a similar thing, right? He warns people, and he said, "Were you not there? Have you not seen that on January 6th? He did not want to leave." And he said, "Do you think he will leave that office in 28 if he lives up to that time?" Right.
Right.
He has some chilling warning about what this guy will do.
I mean, I can certainly check out segments of it. I just don't know if I'll be able to play the entire thing. I don't even know if. Hopefully, I wouldn't be like copyright struck or anything like that because it is.
That's the problem, right? That's the question, but I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see. I'll try to jump around and play little bits and pieces after I'm done with this article here. So, a letter sent to members of the U.S. Congress. Oh, wait, I already read that part. Kentucky Republican Representative Thomas Massey, who co-wrote the law, called for the DOJ to also release internal memos outlining past discussions on whether to charge Jeffrey Epstein and his associates. Millions of new files relating to the late sex offender Epstein were released by the DOJ earlier this month. At the time, the Deputy Attorney General said 3 million pages were not released. Which, I mean, last time I checked, 3 million pages not being released in the files constitutes a little bit less than all of the files. Approximately 3 million, as a matter of fact, less than all of the files. This was due to the existence of personal medical files, graphic depictions of child abuse, or other material that would jeopardize investigations, said Todd Blanche on the day of the document's dump. In the latest letter, Bondi and Blanche wrote, in accordance with the requirements of the Act, and as described in various department submissions to the courts of the Southern District of New York assigned to the Epstein and Maxwell prosecutions and related orders, the department released all records, documents, communications, and investigative materials in the possession of the department that relate to any of the 9 different categories. No records were withheld from the DOJ's release on the basis of embarrassment, reputational harm, or political sensitivity, the letter added. Yes, I'm sure that there is nothing within the entire half of those files that would be withheld for anything of that nature whatsoever. I mean, like, how can we trust these people? How can we trust the idea that that's the case when these people were the exact ones that said that this was a Democrat hoax? Those were their words. that the files didn't exist and that they were a Democrat hoax, and that anybody who wants to care about the Jeffrey Epstein files shouldn't be part of the MAGA movement. That was told to these people, but now all of a sudden they've released half of them and said, well, the half that we haven't released, we didn't do that because there's like horrible graphic shit of like major political figures doing stuff to children in there. No! What makes you think that? I wonder what makes me think that. All right, let's take a look at this interview and kind of jump around a little bit here and see.
Yeah, maybe you can use the transcript and.
Oh, we've got moments here that are more watched than others. So let's take a look at this one right here and the lead up to it. I'll go back even a little bit more just to get a bit more context out of it.
That reflects the America you read about today. There's no rule of law. It's the rule of dawn. I hope for Europeans, it's dawning on you. It's not the rule of law. You don't have co-equal branches of government. You have a supine Congress. You don't have a Speaker of the House. It doesn't exist. Popular sovereignty being challenged every single day by voter suppression, trying to rig elections. I mean, heck, Donald Trump tried to steal the election, the last election, tried to light democracy on fire, and then pardoned everyone that participated in that. Is anyone paying attention to what the hell is going on in the United States of America? So my state of mind is a little different, perhaps, than many others. I won't be complicit at this moment. I won't. I can't. I can't look my kids in the eyes. And so I'm just blessed that I get to represent a state that's larger than the size of 21 U.S. states combined. Where 27% of us are foreign-born. We practice pluralism. That's a word you haven't heard in America in a year. Where we dominate in every critical category in terms of energy and daring and entrepreneurialism and innovation. Look, give me a category. And California outperforms, fourth largest economy in the world. And so we can punch above our weight. We can come here with formal authority and a little moral authority. And I tell you, we need a little moral authority. Our body politic in the United States of America today.
Governor, how do you balance?
Good morning, everybody.
Sorry, I figured we would. You're a tough interview, Governor.
I figured.
And when I think you have chosen a sort of, if you can't beat him, join him, strategy to the way you're talking about this stuff. You're running around distributing knee pads to CEOs, and I think it does.
Handing them out,
and it does.
I do have a few, if you'd like. I don't know.
And honestly, it sounds.
By the way, I'm not kidding. They're the new Trump signature series knee pads. And they are available online. I told you the last one sold out.
And I just want to sort of.
It's a serious moment. It actually.
But he even has some humor, right?
Anyway, these are available and in bulk.
Right. I mean. Yeah. You have to have a little bit of humor in times like this. You do. Maybe some of his jokes don't necessarily hit my sense of humor, but you know what? He has humor nonetheless, and that has a valuable component in tumultuous times. So let's keep listening.
But I want to read you a couple of things the U.S. government has said about you in the last 24 hours or so.
The U.S. government.
The Treasury Secretary.
When you put it
the Treasury Secretary described you as Patrick Bateman meets Sparkle Beach Ken. The White House Communications Director.
That was the U.S. Secretary of Treasury.
I have a couple more, and then.
By the way, the same Secretary of the Treasury who I caught out on one of my previous streams, stating that the guy who went on the attack on Mar-a-Lago was a leftist that was trying to commit political violence against Trump, whereas in reality it was actually a former Trump supporter who went into Mar-a-Lago to try and kill him because he became disillusioned with Trump's handling of the Epstein files. He was out there going, even before we even basically knew who this guy was anywhere beyond his name, the Treasury Secretary was out there going, this is yet another example of these horrible lefty lunatics and how they're taking over politics. You know? And in reality, when you looked into it, that wasn't what was going on at all whatsoever. I actually neglected to bring up that example on the show last night. I definitely should have, because it's the most recent example of right wing political violence. Came from a family of Trumpers, wasn't super outspoken about politics himself, from what the report stated, but beyond any reasonable doubt was a Trumper that became disillusioned. But who cares, right? Because the narrative needs to get formed.
You can respond. The White House Communications Director called you Gavin Newscomb, and and an official White House account, a federal government account, described you with I'd say, very online sexual slur that people here probably don't want to hear at 8:30 in the morning. And you're, in some sense, responding in kind, and waving the knee pads around.
Fire with fire.
Do you think? Should you? I mean, is that kind of discourse from you, from them, good for America?
No, it's deeply unbecoming. Come on, of course it is. It's not what we should be doing. But you've got to point out the absurdity. You've got to put a mirror up to this. This is madness. President, you see what he's saying about European leaders, you talking down to people, talking past people. I mean, look, the comments he made yesterday we're not even discussing, because you're discussing all the other comments about windmills or whatever else that was happening. Well, he talked about Somalia's community. This is not normal. It's a deviation of normalcy. We've got to call it out. So I put a mirror up to Trump and Trumpism in all caps. And it was ironic because Pravda, Fox News in America, others, they got offended by it. They said, well, where's his mother to wash his mouth out with soap? I said, well, where the hell have you been? You've never said a word about Trump dressing up as the Pope, tweeting out and cosplaying on the world stage. And so the Treasury Secretary talked about a Barbie doll. It was as if he was reading a diary and had just broken up with someone. I mean, that was the Secretary of Treasury using valuable time yesterday on the world stage. Some sexual, thank you for not sharing that on the official White House account. We're deeply in their head. I think the affordability agenda appears to be, I'm living rent-free in the Trump administration's head.
That was actually a pretty decent one right there. That was actually a pretty decent little quip right there.
Yeah, he's hitting so hard, right?
Mm-hmm.
The most talked about speech here in Davos actually wasn't Donald Trump's address yesterday. It was the Canadian Prime Minister.
Forgettable speech yesterday.
It was Canadian Prime Minister.
But I will drop out
Mark
today
Carney
a little
the day
earlier.
before, who talked about.
It's lagging more than maybe because of the screen sharing. That could be.
Oh, okay.
So, but I will be watching in the background.
Cool. Not a problem at all. Well, thank you very much for being here, Mr.
No.
Logo.
Thank you. Bye.
Take care. Well, now that I got that guy out, no, I'm just joking. Thank you so much for being here, Mr. Logo. That was awesome. Anybody else, by the way, the link is out there. It's pinned at the very top of the chat. And if you haven't already, it would be greatly appreciated for everybody that's watching right now. Please like the stream. It helps support the channel, helps the channel grow. You've heard all this crap before. You don't need to hear it again. And with that being said, let's get back into this interview.
About, I don't know, in large terms, the middle powers, everybody except for China and the U.S., really had to adapt permanently to a world without American leadership. I guess I wonder, I mean, that's in some sense a pretty anti-American point of view. That's a view that America is gone from the world stage, that whether the next president is J.D. Vance, Gavin Newsom, somebody else, this isn't a deviation, as you said. This is permanent.
Well,
do you buy that? Do you buy Carney's point of view?
I felt there was moments, and forgive me, I should be cautious making this statement. I don't want it to be overanalyzed. But when I was listening to the EU president speak, there were moments where I said, that used to be us. I remember that. So am I surprised by what Carney did? Quite the contrary. I thought it was, I had more leaders from the United States quietly, not publicly, not enough standing up publicly, the transcript of that speech saying, wow. They were, got in Trump's head yesterday, he brought it up. You know everything about Trump because it's what's not in the teleprompter. That tells you everything you need to know about where Trump's head is on things. It was incredibly effective. The markets were more effective. Markets. It's not Mother Nature, thought of most powerful force on earth with Mother Nature, but it's the markets, particularly the Trump administration. Combine that with the comments of Macron, combine that with the EU commissioner, but the clarity that came from Prime Minister of Canada. But the fact that he went to China came back with a deal, start introducing low-cost, high-quality electric vehicles, not made in Michigan, Detroit.
Which, by the way, that's not something that I've covered too much. I believe I did one little bit of coverage of that on the show. But America is flipping its shit on Canada right now because Canada is allowing for cheaper and, in many cases, given market testing, better Chinese EVs to come over here to Canada. And the reason why they haven't been allowed in Canada and why they haven't been allowed in the United States is because there's been this understanding that they are so much more effective than the American and Canadian equivalents that they'll just outcompete the entire market. There's a concern that the electric vehicle market will suffer a similar blow to what happened to the American auto manufacturing industry in the 1980s through 2000s. And unfortunately, while that will hurt American industry, I don't think America has learned its lesson from the decline that is associated with that particular shift within the market, first to Mexico and then on to other foreign countries across the Pacific. And the lesson that was supposed to be learned there was that you have to stay competitive. You have to stay competitive if indeed America wants to partake in this free market, not laissez-faire, obviously, but free market capitalism, where, yeah, there's regulations in place, but at the end of the day, if you've got a good product, you can make it succeed in the United States. Can you really? If there's such protectionism around foreign-made products that are better in terms of quality? I mean, I've made the comparison before on, I think it was Ivar the Streamless, that I made a conversation about this. But America is falling behind in terms of scientific and technological development. That's just a fact. There used to be a time in the 1960s and 1970s where America gave a much larger portion of its total budget to sciences funding compared to what it does now. And it's no coincidence that in the 1960s and 1970s, America was whooping the world's ass in terms of technological developments. There was no country on the planet that could hope to compete with the shit that America was producing. Because, yeah, while the Soviets were certainly being effective in the space race, a lot of their computers, especially in the latter part of said space race, were literally just American computers that were inside of those spacecraft that they repurposed and aped from fucking IBM and other major American corporations that worked on computers in Silicon Valley. Apple computers being one beginning in the 80s, right? Well, 70s and 80s, but largely in the 80s was when they gained popularity. But in any case, America is falling behind technologically, and them trying to put such restrictions on these foreign EVs is a perfect example of them, rather than just putting more funding into the development of these technologies and remaining competitive on the world stage. The excuse is always the cost of manufacturing. Oh, the jobs are just so much more expensive in America compared to other countries. But if that was the case, and the technology was just leagues above every single other country, I think a lot more people would be willing to pay that price for a vehicle that is just markedly superior than anything else that the competition has to offer. Oh, you have an EV that charges over several hours, that you literally have to dedicate part of your day around charging if you happen to be low on battery? Well, we've got an EV that cuts that charging time in half. Even that innovation alone would catapult you above the competition in terms of the electric vehicle market. But no, America is genuinely not interested in technological developments like that anymore. And it's kind of strange that even though America is not as interested in those things, that America is cooperating with entities like SpaceX and Intel They've bought a 10% stake in Intel under the Trump administration. The American government is a direct stakeholder in Intel as a company, which, by the way, last I checked, one of the major talking points that was brought up on yesterday's show was fascist corporatism. And one of the things involved in fascist corporatism is the direct overlap of government and corporate interests to the point where the government begins buying out and controlling other major corporate entities. And Intel is perhaps, only time will tell, only time will intel. God, that was a horrible joke. But only time will tell whether Intel is the first of a myriad of other companies that America buys direct stake in or not. You know, we live in a day and age where rather than relying on its own space agencies to do all these things, America is more and more relying on Elon Musk and SpaceX, a private enterprise, to do its space capabilities, to go to low Earth orbit and service things like the International Space Station. And I just think that that's such a tragedy that we've outsourced and hollowed out so much of America's shining technological development and just given it to all these private corporations so that rather than all that technological development going to, I don't know, cancer research or environmental research or space exploration, rather than those things that can actually have market improvements on the human condition, we've got to pour it into fucking Lockheed Martin so that they can develop a drone that can kill people 14% more efficiently than the drone before it. That's where we've got to put all of our fucking spending on sciences.
But overseas, into Canada, it says everything you know about the recklessness of America's foreign policy. Everything you need to know. You know it intimately, but it's a remarkable thing to break down 80 plus years of alliances. It takes decades and decades to build trust in organizations, the architecture of that. It takes weeks, tweets, hours, minutes sometimes to destroy it. Destruction is not strength. The Trump administration is weakness masquerading as strength. And people need to understand that. That's reflected in the tweets. That's reflected in canceling.
I mean, there's so many aspects of their ideology that echo a similar sentiment. You know, I thought about this the other day, and if somebody else has already made this quote, then please go and find it. But I thought it was a pretty goddamn half-decent quote. I was just saying in conversation to Brianna, racism is ignorance masquerading as arrogance. And I think that that really cuts to the heart of racial thinking in people's minds. While they predicate themselves on being inherently superior to another group of people, invariably, when you dig into the justification that underpins that thinking, it's always ignorance. So I think in much the same way of this weakness masquerading as strength, I think many of the people in this movement have ignorance masquerading as arrogance. Thanks for describing your entry. Pixie. Yeah, he is. No, you're right, Mr. Logo. Trust me, I really I appreciate you linking this, because this is a really important thing to cover.
People. That's reflected in sending masked men into the American cities. It's reflected at this moment. So I respect what Carney did, because he had courage of convictions. He stood up. And I think we need to stand up in America and call this out with clarity. We can lose our republic as we know it. Our country become unrecognizable in a matter of months, just not years. It is code red, blinking red in the United States of America. So for
I don't care for some of Newsom's accomplishments. Well, it's important, Pixie, now that you said that, to, kind of contextualize things a little bit. Yeah, is what Newsom's saying right now important, and is what Newsom's saying true? Yeah. But let's not pretend like Newsom is this shining, amazing example of the white knight for the little guy. Okay, he's an establishment Democrat who toes the party line and plays the game of American politics just the same as so many of these other people. Now, he's capitalizing on what's going on with the Trump administration, and I think that what he's saying is still very important. But yes, I agree, Pixie. The context of that is important. Because unfortunately, I can't help but be jaded about each and every single one of these fucking people. When you've got people like AOC and the squad, quote unquote, saying that they're going to make major changes and pass things like the Green New Deal. And then when Nancy Pelosi tells her, fuck the Green New Deal, you're not going to support that anymore, she just quietly walks it back, quietly toes the line. When fucking IPAC asks for another fucking $1 billion from the United States, and AOC goes, fuck that, we're not going to do that. That's horrible. We don't support Israel. And Nancy Pelosi goes up to her and says, fuck that. You're going to fucking withdraw what you just said, and you're going to vote to support IPAC. She fucking falls in line and votes for IPAC because, unfortunately, almost every single one of these fucking politicians are just a bunch of fucking empty suits. Now, some of them are a bit more charismatic than others. Some of them are a bit more capable of articulating good points and capitalizing on political capital than others. All of that is true. But yeah, let's put things in their proper context.
Give me, I feel this with passion, some indignancy, as someone frankly has taken it for granted all of these years. And it's why I came here to Davos to call it out. And I wish there were more of us doing the same, because there are more of us.
I hope he's not the Democratic nominee. Oh, trust me. Trust me, Pixie. If you don't think that this is him inadvertently pushing his presidency or his future run at the presidency, that's absolutely what he's doing here. The political capital that he's building right now, while being accurate in its articulation against the Trump administration, also conveniently serves to pad out his resume prior to running for the President of the United States. So that is also an important bit of context as well. Never mind the record, listen to the pretty words you like. Are you talking about me? Because I'm not saying that this guy is totally innocent, of course. We need to keep those things in mind. Oh, are you just saying that like just as a general statement? You probably mean that as a general statement. Sorry. It's kind of hard to understand the context of the chat when it's all text. Same tactics, different team. I know. It's almost like they're two sides of the same coin. And much like I've been saying for a long time now, the Republican and Democratic parties agree on far more issues than they disagree on. And when you actually look at their positions and the positions of their leaders on a political compass, you find that they're nearly identical, functionally, in terms of their policies. And that's indicative of exactly what I'm talking about.
And on that, forgive me, I want you to know Donald Trump is an historic president. That's absolutely correct. He's historically unpopular in the United States of America. In every category, he's underwater. He will be remembered in years, not decades. He's not going to run again. Time of life denies that. Not his state of mind, but time of life. But we need to manifest that. And we need to do the hard work. And that hard work includes the difficult work of coming to Davos and calling.
God, I hope when he says manifest that, he doesn't mean like the secular version of prayer. God, I've heard that being said by so many. Let's manifest that. Let's manifest that everything's going to be okay today, guys. It's like you just mean prayer. You're just somebody that wants to say prayer, but you don't say prayer for whatever fucking reason. That's all that manifestation is. You're just praying out to the universe or whatever you think that you're praying to. And hey, I'm not saying that's any less valid than praying to God or Jesus, but don't think it's any more valid either, right? I hope when he says manifest, He means the actual literal form of that manifestation. I hope he means let's put this into action and let's take these words and let's take these ideas and let's put them into practice in the real world. Don't let Newsom fool you. He's definitely the corporate oligarchy Democrat. I don't think anyone should run on any platforms at all. Yeah, I agree with you. No, I'm not letting him fool me. Trust me. Give me your ideas or sit down and shut up. What do you mean? Are you talking to me? I don't know who you're talking to there, Pixie. I'm sorry. It's a little... a recycled soundbite. Oh, you mean what he's saying right now about Trump. Yeah, that's why I'm saying that the only way that this guy's going to have any credibility for the things that he's saying right now is if he actually puts them into action. Right? Because unlike me, unlike the fucking random guy sitting here in his little apartment talking about this on the internet, Gavin Newsom has a lot of power and authority and a lot more ability to change the world around him than I do. So it's really a question of whether or not he's going to manifest it in terms of just sending out good vibes and hoping everything works out. Or manifesting in terms of I'm going to fucking pull up my goddamn sleeves and I'm going to get this shit done for the American people. Because goddamn it, I may have a lot of resistance doing that, but it's the fucking right thing to do. I'll tell you what, Newsom, that's what it's going to take. Because Pixie's right. No amount of fucking rhetoric, no amount of fucking sitting up here and shaking your fist is going to actually make practical change to this administration.
That out. This is not where I want to be spending, I love you all, my time. So anyway, it's an extension of the conviction I feel about this moment.
Talking a lot of people who, among other things, aren't American, maybe be concerned for America, but are making decisions about their own politics, their own countries. And what Carney's core point was, this is a rupture, this isn't an anomaly, and there's no going back. And do you think that, I mean, do you think that a different American leader can bring...
I think these relationships are in dormancy, they're not dead. I don't use those binary terms. Don't fall prey to that. That's a bit hyperbolic, and I'm prone to a little of that at times. Dormancy. We can look. He's an invasive species, Donald Trump. He's not. He is. He took over the Republican Party. They're just. I mean, he's got, you know, a few of them. Lindsey Graham. I mean, speaking of the.
Look, I'm sorry, dude. You've had one or two like chuckles, but like, I just gotta say it, man. It's like. Ronald Reagan, you are not, okay? You're not out here making these super elaborate, like, super funny jokes that slay the audience because they're just so legitimately funny. Like, hey, maybe that's one of the things you could work on and improve. Maybe you could be the next Ronald Reagan, Newsom. You just gotta work on your act a little bit. Just gotta work on your routine. Your whole election system needs a reform. Absolutely. I think that, you won't find any disagreement on that from me or Pixie.
Knee pads. I'm sorry. This is tough stuff. It's tough stuff. I don't recognize these people any longer. I used to respect Lindsey. I mean, Lindsey, you think what I'm saying about Trump's tough? How about what Lindsey Graham said about Trump? How about the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio?
Do you think...
I mean, these are the same people. And this is why for things to change, we need to change.
Do you think
and that's why I'm changing my approach. And again, grateful you all took the time.
I mean, I suppose, do you think post-Trump there's a path back? Because you see this everywhere, the kind of insult politics that you're doing here, which you said you don't really enjoy it. You kind of seem to.
Well, I just putting a mirror up. You got to. I was doing my 10-point plans before, and I don't think any of you would have been here this morning had I done that.
Oh, they would have been here.
No, because it wasn't working. No, everyone's trying to figure this guy out.
How do you, a Mark Carney crowd?
Yeah, no, but it's how do you communicate? How do you respond to this moment? And for me, it's about iteration. It's an entrepreneurial spirit. It's a very California mindset. You got to keep increasing the number of tries. And I was trying everything, wasn't working, wasn't breaking through. Democratic Party, writ large, wasn't breaking through. And we decided the only way to address Trump is quite literally to fight fire with fire.
All right. I think that's about everything for this particular segment. I think that was everything of value for that one. We'll see, Newsom. We'll see. You talk a big game right now. You're talking about all these awful things, and you're talking about all these changes. But, you know, I remember a certain other person that was more charismatic than you, that was advocating hope and change. And it turns out that didn't really happen all that much at all. They got a shitty, watered-down fucking healthcare bill passed that now has been fucking undermined by this exact administration, who's now tried to roll out Trump care rather than Obamacare, which was a fucking disaster, by the way. I'm sure most people fucking forget his attempts at rolling out Trump care. Right? Or at least him floating the idea of doing so to the American people, and when they looked into his plan, it was just fucking gobbledygook. It didn't have any fucking practical representation in the real world whatsoever. So yeah. We shall see. Monsieur Newsom. Alrighty, moving on to our next segment. We have the beginning of the Iran war segment. Sorry, Aiden, catching up. They were general statements. All good, Pixie. Thank you for clarifying. I kind of figured that they'd be general statements. That's why I try not to take any of that kind of shit personal, unless people are pretty, like, overt about that stuff. And even then, probably best not to take things personal, because it's best not to be a little bitch. Not saying that about you, obviously, Pixie. Just saying some people definitely take the whole, oh, I'm going to take this really deeply personally angle just a little too far. Let's see. Let's read the chat. Pixie storms, but Gavin already resurrected the election districts restructured the election districts when Texas did, and Trump didn't like it. Election districts were gerrymandered before then and will be gerrymandered after. Texas did it so much that they have shot themselves in the foot in certain places. The only difference now is the time they did it. And a back and forth is just a stalemate. He didn't reconstruct, a stalemate rather. He didn't reconstruct anything. Yeah, and I would also say that gerrymandering, I thought that we were all like universally against that on the left. Or at least the majority of people on the left were. I'm not saying that everybody has to be in lockstep, but last I checked, the majority of people on the left were supposed to be like, gerrymandering is bad, and there's still plenty of people that are leftists that still think gerrymandering is bad, but make no mistake, I didn't not notice this segment of leftists who started coming out going, well, you know, it's okay that Gavin Newsom gerrymanders in California because they do it in Texas. And it's like, no, that's not a good precedent. As soon as you start using the exact same tactics that they do, then you're just giving deference to those tactics. You're giving legitimacy to those tactics. And I'm sorry, but gerrymandering is an inherently undemocratic thing to do. You don't give proper representation to voters if you specifically restructure districts on political fucking means. It's not how it's supposed to be. At all. So anybody that says, oh, it's okay because they do it, no. Whether advertent or not, you are giving fucking legitimacy to that as a practice, and that's bullshit. As I said before, let me just pimp this one more time before I go on to the next segment. Please, ladies and gentlemen, if you are enjoying the show so far, like, share, subscribe, do all that good stuff. It would be much appreciated. Anyways, moving on, we've got, as I said before, the beginning of our Iran war segment. Let's take a look at this.
A new report says that the military investigation has found that the United States struck the school in Iran. As Commander-in-Chief, do you take responsibility for that?
That is what?
As As Commander-in-Chief, do you...
For what?
For the strike on the school in Iran. A new report says the military investigation has found it was the United States that struck the school.
I don't know about it.
Report shows, a new report says...
What a strong response. I don't recall. I don't know about that. I haven't seen that. Yeah, dude. It was a fucking Tomahawk missile. And it came at the school at an angle that would have been fucking practically impossible for Iran to do unless the fucking missile literally did a fucking little loop-de-loop and went around on a specific direction. Like, the level of fucking absurdity that these people have to go to try and justify the idea that this was Iran that did this attack. This is the main guy that fucking propagated that narrative, by the way. I started seeing people like fucking Jamie Russell going like, oh yeah, bro, I heard that like it was Iran that did that to its own people. And surprise, surprise, where did he get that information from? From the fucking propagandist in chief right in front of us. The guy that just decides what the fucking reality of the situation is at a moment so that the rest of his base can fucking just bobble along to it like the empty-headed idiots that they are. Anyways, moving on to our next segment we've got here. The most popular MAGA influencer you've never heard of is an AI foot fetish model. Uh-oh. A fake soldier duped 1 million patriots for OnlyFans cash. It's a sign of more worrying things to come. Look at her there. Look at her out there thirst trapping. Thirst trapping in the name of the United States of America. What a beautiful example of a fucking psyop for you goddamn idiot. Oh my gosh, she's so beautiful. I'm gonna give my money to see her bazungas. You fucking idiots. Do you know who Jessica Foster is? Neither did I until last week. Which is surprising. Because 1, she's amassed 1 million followers on Instagram after starting her account just a few months ago. 2, she is a U.S. Army soldier with a look as wholesome and American as apple pie. 3, she is a huge Trump supporter. With that trifecta, you could assume that she would be a star on Fox News, Newsmax, or the Joe Rogan Experience. But no, she's nowhere to be found on those platforms. Or any major US media outlet for that matter. And that's because she's a computer-generated mirage designed by an anonymous operator to funnel conservative men towards an OnlyFans page where she, quote-unquote, sells foot fetish pics. Ooh, look at some of those. Oh my. Spicy. I came across Foster while reading the Spanish sports media, which covered the AI character after her account posted fake images of her attending a White House reception for the MLS championship, winning Inter Miami soccer team alongside Donald Trump and Lionel Messi. She also has appeared in the Oval Office alongside Cristiano Ronaldo. The stunt triggered a massive wave of coverage across sports outlets in football. Why did I say that like a fucking Russian? In football, yes, in Spain we talk like this, comrade. That is correct. Obsessed Spain and Latin America, which then expanded to TV, other online publications rather, and national newspapers with huge readerships, like 20 Minutos. Who or what is Jessica Foster. The Instagram profile at jessica.foster went live on December 14th, 2025. In just 3 months, the account has more than 1 million followers. The recipe for this success was fairly simple. The puppet master behind the screen pumped out a constant stream of content around this fictitious, Trump loving female soldier and built an entire digital lore by letting followers peek into her daily life. We see Jessica posing in army bunks, frolicking with female soldiers, shoeless at the office, and behind an F-22 Raptor fighter jet. Ooh! The feed is packed with high-resolution, completely forged photos of her posing with Trump and politicians like Vladimir Putin and Volodymyr Zelensky. In one, she's speaking at the Board of Peace conference, Donald Trump's international body created to mediate the Gaza conflict. She even invaded Greenland because, of course, all it takes to conquer a country is a Colgate smile. Wow. Yeah, this is definitely not a thirst trap account at all, folks. This lady is here to tell you about politics. She's here to keep you informed. Tux TV says hi, all. Hey, Tux. Hope things are doing well with you. Excuse the typos, working and distracted. No, you're all good, Pixie. You are all good. I'm just glad that you're here, hanging out in the side chat, just like everybody else that decided to pop in the stream today. Shout out to the 10 fine folk watching right now. But all of this is just bait to pick up right-leaning men straight into adult subscription sites under the username Jessica Next Door. Ooh, spicy. Her OnlyFans bio unironically reads, public servant by day, troublemaker by night. I'm new to this. Don't be rude, please. By the way, I respond to every message. But be patient, since I'm not a robot. Ha ha. God! You fucking dupes, man. Like, really? Who spent money on this? One of you people out there in the community, you spent money on this shit, didn't you? What are you fucking Trump sycophants out there? Come on. Speak now. Speak loud, speak proud. You fucking dropped money on this shit. The entire grift operates in direct violation of OnlyFans' terms of service. The platform's rules demand that every account must be linked to a verified human being. Any AI-generated content, it says, must actually resemble that specific real person and be explicitly tagged with a hashtag AI label. Because of these restrictions, many of these faceless operators are packing up their fake influencers and moving to looser competitor sites, like FanView. We sent a request for comment to OnlyFans, and we'll update this article if we hear back. Alright, I think that's about everything that I needed to cover on there. I just found this really funny. Really funny. That a bunch of right-wing men are out there fucking thirst trapping for an AI woman that doesn't even really exist. Funny times indeed. If you can't laugh through the pain of this world, I don't know what you can do, ladies and gentlemen. Moving on to our next segment, UK public opinion on the US-Iran conflict. Latest update for 12th of March. US and UK air bases, 2nd of March and 11th of March. Having previously denied the U.S. permission to use RAF, that being Royal Air Force bases, for strikes against Iran, Keir Starmer, I believe that's correct, Starmer, reversed this position so long as the targets were restricted to missile sites. But this was not enough to avoid stinging criticism from Donald Trump, more on which lower down. The move flies in the face of UK public opinion. Our survey in late February had found 58% opposed to allowing the US to launch strikes from RAF bases. And subsequent poll on the 2nd of March, and again on the 11th and 12th of March, and found the figures still stood at 49 to 50% when the missile sites only caveat was included. So you still got 50% of the population. You still got half of the population that's like, nah, don't do that. Don't do that. But they just went ahead anyway. Again, reform and conservative voters are more in favor, while Labor, Lib, and Dem Green voters are generally opposed. Clarity on the cause of the conflict, 10th and 11th of March. To the British public, it is not clear why the US has attacked Iran. You know, funnily enough, it's not clear to basically the rest of the world either why the US attacked Iran. Because every time you fucking ask the United States government, the answer always changes. So you know what? I really can't fucking blame the UK public for being confused as to why the United States attacked them. Because I think basically fucking everyone else is as well. Just 27% of Britons think America's reasons for attacking Iran are clear, including only 8% who consider them very clear. I want to talk to those 8%. You know what? Somebody in that 8%, come on the show. I want to hear what you have to say about this. I want to hear how this is apparently very clear that this is the case. Instead, 61% think the reasons are unclear, including 34% who consider them very unclear. Initial data from Monday, the 2nd of March, shortly after the onset of hostilities, found Britons opposed to the attacks by 49 to 28%. Attitudes differ significantly by party, where the majority of Reform UK voters, or 58%, and a plurality of Tories, or 49%, backing the strikes. But the majority of Labour and Lib Dem voters, 63 to 64%, and Greens, 70%, opposed. Asked the same data a week later, the public had become 10 points more likely to oppose the conflict. Turns out, in classic fucking fashion, when a war that's not really justifiable drags out for a prolonged period of time or longer than was initially predicted, turns out that the public support for that war doesn't go up. It actually starts going... It starts falling into the goddamn toilet. It's not clear to the American public why our government attacked them. Exactly my point, Big C. Exactly my point. I can't blame the people of the United Kingdom for saying that they don't understand why the fucking United States attacked when Americans don't fucking understand outside of the propaganda regurgitated to them by the fucking president either. So yeah, no blame on you guys as far as that's concerned. The public had become 10 points more likely to oppose the conflict, 59%, while support remained about steady at 25%. Opposition increased among Green, Lib Dem, Labour, and Tory voters, which is critical because Tories are not in the same political category. They're certainly more to the left than Labour. Or sorry, not Labour. Which one is the other one? Oh gosh, let me look up here and pretend like I understand British politics for a moment. The Conservative voters. Surely they're not just called the Conservative Party. I don't think they're called the Conservative Party. But suffice it to say, people who are right of center are starting to lose support for this as well. The Tories are certainly right of center in British politics. As the same data a week later, the public had become 10 points more likely to oppose the conflict, while support remained steady at 25%. Opposition increased among Lib Dem, Labour, and Tory voters, but remained largely the same among Reform UK voters. Sorry, that's the one. Reform is the one. I'm pretty sure that's more right of center. I'm sure Spooky's gonna come in here and go, God damn it, Aiden, you don't fucking understand a thing. You stupid fucking twat, Aiden. You want to come on here and you understand fucking British politics? I don't know what your actual accent is, Spooky. I'm just gonna give you that one. That's your accent now. You should have sight better than I do most of the time, if I do say so myself. At least it's a bit less offensive, it is. Across the pond, the first survey by our colleagues at UWS found the American public opposed to the conflict by 48 to 37%. So we see here a different chart. 2024. So we have different ones here for strongly oppose and strongly support from both the 2nd and 9th of March. We see almost universally that the support is waning on the 9th of March compared to the 2nd of March from one chart to the next rather. So yeah, I just wanted to show that just to demonstrate that there are at least some people out there in the world, both in the United Kingdom and the United States, that aren't just blindly going along with the narrative here. And it seems, according to this data, that number is slowly growing over time. So, moving on to the next piece that's directly associated with the article that I was reading. Exclusive. Trump. I'm very disappointed in Starmer over Iran. President tells Telegraph that PM took far too long to let America use Chagos Islands Air Base. What a fucking whiny crybaby. What a whiny little fucking bitch. You got what you wanted, in spite of the fact that it's not popular amongst the fucking populace of that country. You still got what you wanted. You still are now allowed to use the fucking bases. And yet, that's still not good enough for you. You've still got to go, well, I didn't get him on the timeline that I wanted to, so I'm gonna cry like the little bitch that I am now. Okay, Donnie. All right. Ooh, let's click off of that. Oh, come on. Nope. Sorry, Telegraph. Not gonna happen. Moving on to our next article. I think I already got most of what I needed to out of that one anyway. Pete Hegseth outright quotes scripture in Iran war briefing. The Christian nationalist undertones of this war are getting even more obvious. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth decided to quote scripture to eulogize yet another U.S. soldier who died for no good reason in retaliatory strikes from Iran at his press conference Tuesday morning. Quote, having just returned from Dover, Delaware last night, our troops and their families and the enormous sacrifice that they make is certainly heavy on my mind. So I'll close with scripture, drawing strength from Psalm 144. Blessed be the Lord my rock, who trains my hands for war and my fingers for battle. He is my loving God and my fortress, my stronghold and my deliverer, my shield in whom I take refuge, he continued, ending the verse before switching to his own prayer. While it's a lovely verse traditionally attributed to King David, it does not accurately portray the reality of the situation whatsoever. The United States is the Goliath of this story, along with Israel. The country's joint attacks of aggression have killed over 1,200 Iranians, many of them young schoolgirls. Iranian fuel depots were hit so hard that oil rained from the sky in Tehran on Sunday. 7 American service members have died because a president who promised peace sent them to war for money and regime change, not liberation. I just want you to remember what I said at the very beginning of this conflict. Because what I said at the very beginning of this conflict, and what I got criticized for being, oh, you're so dramatic, you're such a little liberal crybaby. But you know what I pointed out? I pointed out, hey, Americans, try to remember and cherish and treasure the lives of those servicemen while they're alive right now and can get that fucking appreciation from you, because make no goddamn mistake, there are going to be coffins coming over from this conflict, and it's only going to be when they're dead and when they've already fucking been buried that you people will go, oh my gosh, this is so bad, let's have a little prayer for them. No! How about you fucking care for them before they get sent into the meat grinder to die needlessly for this fucking conflict? How about you take a fucking moment of consideration and advocate for those people then, rather than only having a fucking shred of faux fucking concern after they're already fucking dead and gone and can't receive a single iota of that concern whatsoever? I don't know. Maybe I just got my fucking priorities backwards. Let's honor them while they're alive. Fuck that shit, right? Only care about them when they got the fucking American flag draped over their coffin. I'm such a stupid fucking liberal sissy crybaby for pointing out the basic reality that that was what was gonna happen, right? Sent to them for war for money and regime change. Quote, may the Lord grant unyielding strength and refuge to our warriors, unbreakable protection to them in our homeland, and total victory over those who seek to harm them, Hegseth concluded. Amen. So, as we see, as the article states, we're starting to see government officials. We're starting to see people who are supposed to represent a government where the church and the state are supposed to be separate from one another, have freedom of religion to choose what they want in terms of their religious practices and beliefs, and we have this fucking guy alongside a whole bunch of... I wonder why it is that this administration is the one where so many whistleblowers in places like the United States Marine Corps, United States Army, United States Air Force, and United States Navy, I wonder why so many of them are blowing the whistle and going, hey, my officers are coming to me and saying that this war is going to bring about fucking Armageddon. And that's why everything is okay, because you're going to bring about the end times with this war, buddy. I wonder why it's this administration. Why this is the one that fucking has this shit going on. When Pete goddamn Hegseth is on stage trying to fucking proselytize to people while he's supposed to be fucking mourning the dead. Anyways, moving on to our next segment. You know, in classic fashion, what was one of the biggest criticisms that was levied against the United States military in the aftermath of the bill passing that limited drinking age to 21? The classic adage was that, wow, we're sending our boys overseas to die in foreign conflicts when they're not even allowed to have a drink. Isn't that unjust? Isn't that fucked up? That we're gonna put these people on the battlefield, put a gun in their hand, and force them to murder other people when they can't even walk into the bar and have a fucking beer. Or just enjoy a nice cold one in the fucking privacy and peace of their own domicile. That would be a crime for those people to do that. Remember all the outrage surrounding that? Well, let's read this and see whether or not that outrage carries forward bipartisanly, like it did for what I just brought up. Why U.S. citizenship isn't required to be drafted into war as attacks on Iran continue. If World War III were to break out, the U.S. would have the power to reinstate the draft, while U.S. law requires all male citizens and male immigrants to register for the selective service when they turn 18. There are a few exceptions as to where citizens aren't required to be drafted. Let's take a look. No one wants a World War III. Still, today, as the US has entered into a military conflict with Iran, with other countries such as China and Russia standing firm on Iran's side, many people in the United States are worried about the possibility of a war, and before that, a military draft. Because of this, rumors have spread online that young people could soon be forced to join the military. But what would actually happen if a draft were introduced? To begin with, the United States does not currently have any active military draft. The last time people were forced to join the armed forces was during the Vietnam War in the 1970s. Since then, the US military has been made up of volunteers. Even though there is no draft right now, the system still exists. If the country faced a serious national emergency or major war, the government could bring it back. U.S. law requires all male citizens and male immigrants to register for the Selective Service when they turn 18. It actually doesn't matter whether you are a U.S. citizen or not, which means undocumented immigrants also have to go through with it. This applies to men aged 18 to 25. Registering means their name could be used if a draft ever happens. The question, are undocumented males required to register, appears in the frequently asked questions section of the Selective Service System website. It reads, yes, all undocumented males 18 through 25 years of age, other than those admitted on non-immigrant visas, must register, whether or not they have a green card. Those who choose not to sign up for the Selective Service could face legal trouble. According to the Selective Service System website, individuals who don't register may face consequences. They could be fined up to $250,000 and or 5 years in prison, be ineligible for state-based student loans and grants in 31 states, be ineligible for federal job training programs, disqualified from many federal jobs, including some state and local, or, for immigrants, get up to a 5-year delay in U.S. citizenship proceedings. Exceptions from being drafted. However, some people are not required to register. For example, men visiting the country with certain visas, such as tourist or student visas, do not have to register. Which, I mean, makes sense. If you're a tourist in the United States and you're there on vacation and a draft happens, it's kind of clear that you shouldn't be put into the military as part of that draft. Same goes if you're a student from another country who's studying abroad. It's a pretty fucking sensible thing. But you know what's not goddamn sensible? What's not sensible is the idea that there should be people on the battlefield wearing the red, white, and blue of the United States flag on their fucking uniforms. And yet those people cannot vote. Those people cannot access Social Security. Those people cannot access a variety of different services unique to United States citizens. And yet they're expected to pick up a gun and fight for the country that they are disenfranchised from. Let me ask everybody out there in the audience, right? Whether you agree or disagree with this, do you think it's more egregious to have a young man fight for a country that doesn't allow him to drink? Or a young man fight for a country that doesn't allow him to vote? Because as far as I'm concerned, being disenfranchised is a fucking damn sight more significant than not being able to get a cold one. Alright? So why is it that there was a giant fucking hullabaloo made about the fact that they can't drink, but I had to go and fucking find this from Newsner? Because this isn't something that's being talked about on a wide fucking scale. They ain't drafting me. I'm an essential worker. Well, they're not drafting me either. And the reason why they're not drafting me is because we don't have a draft. Wait a minute. Hold on, let me fact check that. Does Canada have a draft? No, Canada does not currently have a military draft. I thought so. I thought we didn't have mandatory service in Canada. Now, if my country ever got attacked, I'd take up arms and defend my country. I don't have a problem saying that. However, I certainly wouldn't fucking get drafted to go and fight in some overseas conflict, to go and fucking bleed out in some foxhole in the middle of Iran on a hillside that I'll never fucking know the name of, for a conflict that I was never personally involved in. No thank you. I'm good. Even if someone registers, it does not always mean they will be drafted. Certain people may qualify for exemptions. For example, if you're a member of the clergy, or if you're a male student preparing to take a ministry. You know what else you get accepted for? You get accepted for the bone spurs. I got the bone spurs, folks. Look, I got bone spurs and they jingle, jangle, jingle. I therefore cannot serve in this conflict, unfortunately. Canada is Europe Junior. You guys are fat and happy under our umbrella. I mean, hey, I never denied that. I never denied that Canada benefits massively from the current global paradigm and its current position therein. I'd be kind of foolish to go, nah, you know what? Canada's actually worse off for having the United States directly next to it. Obviously not, right? But that doesn't mean at the same time that I can't call out the fact that that current global paradigm is producing a lot of fucking human suffering. A lot of it. Moreover, certain family situations, such as having a sole surviving son, may also exempt a person from the draft. People who are already serving in the military are, of course, not drafted either. Well, yeah, obviously. So the exemptions that exist for these things are literally for, like, the most reasonable of extenuating circumstances possible. Otherwise, if you came to the United States and are an undocumented migrant, get fucking ready. You may think you don't have to fucking sit there and watch the fucking lottery on television just like they did back in the fucking 60s and 70s, but lo and behold, it actually turns out that you do. Oh boy. I just got a late breaking story over here. Just give me 1 second. I'm going to pull that one for my show here. And that comes from my reporter of the month, Big Bad Mama. Shout out to Big Bad Mama. Hope you're doing well. Let's take a look at this. Switch my screen out here. All right. So, Dems call for probe into quote-unquote troubling pattern of legal wins for Pam Bondi's brother. 2 congressional Democrats are calling on the Justice Department's internal watchdog to launch a probe into what they characterized as a troubling pattern of favorable outcomes for clients who hired defense attorney Brad Bondi, the brother of Attorney General Pam Bondi, for representation in cases involving the Justice Department. What? You mean to tell me that we have yet another example of a conflict of interest blatantly perpetrating itself in the United States government? Somebody stop the fucking presses. Somebody, anybody, please. It's simply shocking. I cannot believe it. Anyways, the lawmakers, Senator Adam Schiff, D. California, and Representative David Min, D. penned a letter Wednesday asking the DOJ's Inspector General to review, quote, whether Attorney General Pamela Bondi properly rescued herself from or otherwise improperly influenced several cases involving defendants represented by her brother. Quote, we are concerned that DOJ officials, including the Attorney General, may have failed to ensure the independence of internal accountability mechanisms, the lawmakers wrote. Brad Bondi, a defense lawyer with the firm Paul Hastings, has secured several voluntary dismissals and settlements since his sister took the helm at the DOJ. In a LinkedIn post cited in the Democrats' letter, Brad Bondi promoted a litany of remarkable victories, quote unquote, on behalf of clients in 2025. As ABC previously reported, Brad Bondi successfully persuaded federal prosecutors to drop charges against Carolina Amnesty, a former Florida state legislator who faced 2 counts of theft of government property related to a COVID relief fraud. Weeks later, the Justice Department abruptly withdrew its case against another of Brad Bondi's clients, Sid Chakraverty, a property developer who faced felony wire fraud charges in Missouri. Amnesty and Chakraverty denied any wrongdoing with respect to their cases at the time. The DOJ told ABC News at the time that Attorney General Bondi has no role, quote unquote, in either case, and that their decisions to drop those charges were, quote, made through the proper channels. Most recently, Brad Bondi was retained by an individual negotiating a settlement with the Securities and Exchange Commission over civil fraud charges brought last September. SEC regulators accused Brad Bondi's client, Alexander Mayer, and another person of running a Ponzi scheme, misleading investors to the tune of more than $112 million as part of a plan to turn well-known retailers, including Pure One Imports and Radio Shack, into thriving e-commerce businesses. The SEC also accused the 2 men of using more than $16 million in investor frauds for personal use. In October 2025, the SEC paused the case, citing the government shutdown, and noted ongoing settlement talks. Regulators said as recently as last month that the parties remain engaged in settlement negotiations. Neither Mayer nor the other defendants have publicly commented on the case. DOJ spokesperson Gates McGavick reiterated in a statement to ABC News on Wednesday, quote, these decisions were made through the proper channels, and the Attorney General had no role in them. I'm sure that they're going to come out and say the opposite, right? I'm sure they would overtly come out and say, yeah, you know what? As a matter of fact, Pam Bondi did have a direct role in those cases. And she did directly oversee the fact that those cases got dismissed. You caught us, guys. I'm sure that they would just come out and say that shit, right? Maybe Trump should shout the draft from the rooftops. It would be the best deportation effort yet, which is what he wants. Maybe. Pixie, welcome.
Hey.
How are you doing?
It's not going to let me stay long because this is Restream and Restream hates my phone. But I have 2 questions. One about this segment and one about one before, way before.
Of course. Yeah, feel free.
All right. How much of this versus how much of the Epstein files do you think goes behind Pam Bondi's drive to make the DOJ accountable to her without any independent oversight?
Absolutely. There's no coincidence there whatsoever. The fact of the matter is that the Department of Justice has traditionally been an institution that has always had a large degree of oversight. And the fact that she just so happens to be asking for that not to be the case in the midst of scandals like this emerging, it's literally the equivalent of a kid getting their hand caught in the cookie jar multiple times and asking their mom when they get caught on the third time, hey, could you stop looking in the kitchen between this time and this time? Because I just really appreciate that. Like, that's literally the equivalent of what's going on right now.
I think this one scares her more than the Epstein files.
I think that it affects her more personally than the Epstein files, so I wouldn't be surprised about that in the slightest. I mean, obviously, Bondi isn't implicated in the files, so I think that her concern regarding their release is more a concern for her career, whereas this could get her in personal legal hot water if this came out.
Yeah, and she doesn't have, like, the MAGA shield on this one.
Exactly. Go ahead, though, with what your other question.
Oh, yeah. So the throwback one, you mentioned Canada taking in EVs from China, and I want to know if you actually agree with that. Like, do you think that's a good thing?
Yes. I think that competition on the EV market is a good thing, and I think, quite frankly, one of the biggest reasons why innovation in the electric vehicle market in North America has been so stagnant compared to that of China has been because they've been allowed to be so complacent.
See, it's not about competition to me, though. I guess that's where I differ with you. It's why I have a hard time seeing that as like an applaudable thing. I get the competition thing, right? Like, had it been Korean, I would have been like, more power to you. You know what I mean? Had it been Japanese, I would have been like, hell yeah. But my problem with it is that it was done in retaliation to the United States. And I'm not saying that the United States hasn't earned retaliation, right? But what I'm saying is if this is supposed to teach the United States some moral lesson, I'm completely missing it, because how are you going to trade wannabe bad guy A for established bad guy B and be like, see, have you learned to be nicer? It's really weird to me that you're like, we don't like what the US is doing, but yay, Chinese Communist Party with all these atrocities behind them. That seems a little weird to me.
Well, you got to remember, when they shift over to the Chinese EV market, it's no coincidence that it is in fact the Chinese EV market, because you brought up a couple of other ones, and while the Korean EV market and Japanese EV market exists, the innovations that exists within those vehicles within that market pale in comparison to those that are in the Chinese.
Somewhat. They say that, but the truth is their systems are a little haywire. They say they're more innovative, and they are, but they're also a lot less safe. But I won't get into that. But my point is, if this was done in retaliation, because it was, if you listen to the speech, it clearly was, and I'm not saying we didn't earn it. I don't understand how you pretend to have a moral high ground when you're just like, we're trading bad guy A for other bad guy B. We know that the Chinese Communist Party is going to profit from this with all their atrocities behind them, but we're going to do it to teach the mean old USA a lesson.
So
like, how is that not counterintuitive?
I wouldn't necessarily say that the move against the United States here was a strictly moral one, right? Because the United States has crippled a lot of Canadian industries with its actions with its trade wars. Like, for example, potash or potash, depending on which one you want to phrase it as, and Canadian steel, our diamond industries. There's a variety of different industries that have been crippled by American actions. So it's not even like, oh, you guys are so mean and so bad, and that's why we're moving over to the Chinese EV market. It's, you guys are fucking us over in trade, and you are our biggest trade partner. Why the fuck are you doing that to us? If you're going to treat us like shit, we're going to go elsewhere.
So if it's an economic one, make it an economic one. Don't in the same speech talk about like the fall of democracy and they're just doing so bad over there, so we're going to partner with the Chinese Communist Party. That was the most ridiculous speech.
No, I agree, and the moral implications of doing something like that, I agree, are certainly not something to get behind. However, the idea that America is going to be taught a lesson, I don't think it's going to be a moral lesson. I think it's going to be an economic lesson, and I think that Canada would probably reverse the allowance of these EVs if only America stopped with these delusional trade practices that they've been
Well,
pushing.
that's all well and good, but they're not going to get the lesson. You know why they're not going to get the lesson? Because you didn't stand up there and say, look, you can't economically fuck over your allies, or we're going to economically fuck you over back. He stood up there and he said, you're moving away from democracy. We want to trade with people who share our values, like the Chinese Communist Party. And I think that sends some mixed messages.
No, I agree. And I think trying to put it in a moral lens is a really bad mistake. You're not going to find any disagreement with me there. I think it would be a lot more effective as an overtly economic lesson.
So you agree on economic grounds, but not with the way they established it in the media. That
right.
I can go
yeah,
with.
The framing was a bunch of bullshit. I agree with you there.
Okay, that was my question. Thanks so much.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for being here. You can hang around for a little bit if you'd like, or you could head off, whatever you'd prefer.
I'll stay. I'll try to stay. Restream may kick me though, because I'm on my phone at work, and so it hates me when I'm on my phone.
It always whenever I joined Restream on my phone, it would always heat my phone up and like drain the shit out of my battery. So if you end up having to go, I don't blame you in the slightest. Thank you for being here. I will keep up with this article. So in October 2025, the SEC paused the case, citing the government shutdown and noted ongoing settlement talks. Regulators said as recently as last month that the parties remain engaged in settlement negotiations. Neither Mayer nor the other defendant have publicly commented on the case. Oh, wait, I've already read that paragraph as well. Okay, I already got through this article, I suppose. But yeah, thank you, Big Bad Mama, for showing this off. Just yet another example of blatant cronyism taking place within the United States government. I have a few other stories of a similar vein that will be coming up later on in the show that will also go further to prove that as well. But moving on to the next segment, as somebody who is very historically minded, this one kind of hit me a little close to home. U.S. and Israeli strikes are damaging Iranian historical sites. United Nations, AP, U.S. and Israeli strikes on Iran have damaged at least 4 cultural and historical sites, including palaces and an ancient mosque, raising alarms about the impact of the widening war on protected landmarks that are important to Iranian identity and world history. And keep in mind, the history of indelible cultural artifacts being lost to these conflicts is very long and storied, unfortunately. There's the famous example of the Iraqi National Museum, which contained many artifacts from Uruk, of which Iraq gets its name, and the other Sumerian city-states that made up the early Mesopotamian period got looted. And we still have countless examples of texts and cylinder seals and all sorts of different artifacts that we have records of, but we don't have because they got sold somewhere on the private market. With ISIS, a conflict that America directly participated in terms of its bombing and drone campaigns in Syria, its support against the Assad regime through proxy conflicts within that area, and the power vacuum that it created. You had ISIS going to historical sites like Palmyra and destroying them completely, leveling basically everything they possibly could because they were quote unquote shrines to pagan religion or things of that nature. So unfortunately, we have yet another segment of the Middle East whose history is getting erased in real time. It's an absolute tragedy. The speed and extent of the damages have so concerned Iran and Lebanon that they sent a request to the United Nations Cultural Agency, or UNESCO, this week to add more sites to its enhanced protection list. Look at some of 2025's new additions to UNESCO World Heritage List. That'd be a nice thing to look at some point, maybe on my next show. UNESCO confirmed that it has verified damage to the lavish Qajar-era Golistan Palace in Tehran, as well as the 17th century Shishel-Sotun Palace and the Nashed el-Jam, the country's oldest Friday mosque, both in Isfahan. There also was verified damages of buildings close to the Khorramabad Valley, which includes 5 prehistoric caves and 1 rock shelter, providing evidence of human occupation dating to 63,000 BC. Awesome! Awesome. I'm so glad that we're literally damaging Paleolithic historic sites as well. It's not bad enough that we're going and damaging a bunch of fucking mosques and palaces and stuff like that. We've just got to reach back to the earliest genesis of human history and fuck that shit up too, right?
Did you expect it to be different, though? I mean,
I
Trump was
just
the
want to
one
point
who
that out
tried to.
because when people talk about, just one sec, when people talk about historic sites, they typically think of things from like the last couple hundred years and neglect the fact that it represents a wide swath of human history that's being destroyed. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I just think it. I think certain people show pretty early that they don't have any sort of respect for history or where we came from. You know, the kind of people that think like, oh, this is the pinnacle of humanity and we're the smartest we've ever been, and you know, those people. I don't think those people have respect for history. And if you look at Trump's record, right, or the kind of people he surrounded himself with, I don't know if you know what Chaco Canyon is in the U.S. It's not the oldest site we have, but it is one of the sites that has like the most amount and widest depiction of like pictographs and Native American things like that.
Right.
And
if I'm
he
Sorry,
tried to open that. He tried to open that to foreign drilling.
Jesus.
So I just don't think that that would surprise me.
No, unfortunately, it's not very surprising that this sort of shit is happening, but it doesn't mean that it's not important to cover as well. So, with that in mind, I would just say that, it's very sad. It's very sad. The amount of people that don't care for our heritage at all and just want it destroyed for the sake of temporary gain. I mean, we've already lost countless historic artifacts and archaeological sites due to the fact that it wasn't until a couple of hundred years ago that any kind of modern form of archaeology even existed. I mean, for fuck's sakes, the fucking site of Troy was excavated using dynamite, and that dynamite blew through the fucking layer that was actually associated with the Trojan War anyway. So the vast majority of information that we could have ascertained from that period is now just completely lost. And that's one of so many other examples of historic sites that have just been destroyed by the fucking apathy of humanity toward those things. And it is a horrific tragedy. At Golistan Palace, shattered glass from the mirrored ceiling blanketed the floors, alongside broken archways, blown out windows, and damaged molding scattered below its glass mosaic walls, according to Associated Press video taken March 3rd. UNESCO said that it provided all parties to the conflict with the geographical coordinates of the heritage sites ahead of time, quote, to take all feasible precautions to avoid damage. So it's not even like they didn't have access to where these things were. It's not like they didn't have any idea. Not that there was any doubt that that wasn't the case already. But just to take it a step further, the organization responsible for the preservation of these things literally took the time to go, hey, just in case you didn't already know, this is where these things are. And yet they're still getting fucking destroyed anyway. The impact to cultural sites has not been isolated to Iran, but has been felt across the Middle East and beyond, with UNESCO tracking damage to the White City in Israel, Tyre in Lebanon, and elsewhere. Collateral damage to such places has been part of the fabric of war for decades, including in conflicts between Russia and Ukraine, as well as Israel and Hamas, in which dozens of sites have been damaged or destroyed. So yeah, even further examples about what I'm talking about that I didn't even bring up. Human rights advocates, I'm just going to skip this little part here just to get to the kind of meat of this. Human rights advocates are echoing that sentiment, warning that Iran has not only killed, the war in Iran has not only killed more than 1,000 people, but upended the institutions and historical places that communities rely on. Quote, it causes harm to civilians because it damages or destroys a piece of their history that can be significant both to the world and also to a specific region or community, said Bonnie Ducherty, senior researcher in the Arms Division at Human Rights Watch. Quote, it undermines the sort of shared identity of a local community, which can often be important for bringing people together. So yeah, we see more damage to these historic sites. Here as well.
That breaks my heart. That is sad.
No, it's
like I'm not religious at all, but anytime like those historic mosques and churches and buildings, like anytime they get destroyed, it's so sad.
No, it is, because they're beautiful places, whether or not you agree with the ideas expressed there, the works of art that are within them. Like, look at this. This is a beautiful building. It's a wonderful building. The artwork is evocative of a very different culture with very different ideas on how to portray its artwork. Because as you see here, like in other Islamic mosques, you don't have any traditional imagery associated with the artwork. It's patterned artwork. And it's a very unique art form that we can see has been significantly damaged, unfortunately. So
not just that. I mean, some of it is so old. It's pre-machine, right? It's handmade. My heart is not in anything religious, but that takes some dedication, and clearly a lot, that spoke to a lot of people, and I just think it's sad.
No, for sure. Phantom says, oi, hey Phantom, how's it going? Hope that you're doing well. Good to see you. I haven't seen a couple of people around here, but you are one of a few that I was looking for. So hopefully we get a couple more faces in here by the end of the stream. It would be nice to see, I don't know, a few different people around here. Oh wait, no, we already saw Big Bad Mama earlier. I was going to bring up Big Bad Mama. They were already here. But yeah, anyways, without getting too distracted and bogged down, I just wanted to share this image, both because I find it slightly funny, just the way that it's laid out. Not the actual message, obviously. But just George Bush's, like, ghostly form judging Donald Trump as he's about to tee off here. It's just a very funny image in my mind. But the hypocrisy here is so fucking real, because this is a quote from a 2008 press conference that George Bush did when he was questioned about his golf. He said, I don't want some mom whose son may have been recently died to see their commander-in-chief playing golf. And I think playing golf during a war just sends the wrong signal. It's like, weren't you the dude who famously, like, was talking about how we have done everything within our power to eradicate these terrorist killers. Now watch this drive. Like, that was you, dude. You were literally playing golf during fucking major press conferences about the wars that were going on in fucking Iraq and Afghanistan. So don't fucking sit here and moralize about that kind of fucking shit when you did it yourself. And it's important that if anybody sees this and are like, wow, George Bush, he was so much better of a president than Donald Trump, the only reason he fucking stopped playing golf and made this statement was because he got massive fucking backlash about it. So if there's one thing that Bush is better at than Trump, it's at least somewhat fucking adapting to public criticism of him as a president and stopping the fucking golf rather than fucking just continuing to tee off in the midst of a fucking giant conflict going on in Iran. Trust me, I'm not saying Bush was a good president, but he's at least an iota better than Trump in that regard.
Not just that regard. Look, I'm not a Bush fan. I haven't been a fan of any of our presidents that I can remember, actually. But I think our candidates just get worse and worse every election cycle. But that's beside the point.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But I will say Bush, the reason I think he could be better is because he seems to show some sign of conscience, not because of this quote, but because this day he still paints the soldiers he sent to war. And if that's not guilt, I don't know what is.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine if there is some fucking semblance of a soul within that man, it is having to kind of work through the shit that he's done. Because let's face it, he killed 1 million Iraqis, or at least took part in the killing of 1 million Iraqis, and countless American soldiers, thousands of American soldiers. So yeah, I imagine if there is any kind of soul in there, it probably is feeling pretty fucking torn up over what he did, and I say good as far as that's concerned. But anyways, moving on to our next piece here.
But at least he can feel guilty, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Right. So we have here Democratic governor vetoes Charlie Kirk memorial license plates in Arizona. Let's take a look here. Maybe if there's commentary here, then I won't play this, but if this is just the meeting, let's take a look if it will load.
Our objectives are going to be to destroy the cartels, to go after these narco-terrorists that are destroying our people, killing our children and our grandchildren. We're also going to keep our adversaries at bay. Those adversaries that wish to change our way of life and our values that are outside of our hemisphere.
I don't see how this has anything to do with the Charlie Kirk license plate thing. Okay, thanks for the unrelated freaking news clip. I hate when that happens on these websites. They'll just throw something that's not related to what's being talked about at all in there and be like, hey, watch this too. No. I want to stay on topic. Arizona Governor Katie Hobbs vetoed a bill that would have honored the late conservative activist Charlie Kirk on license plates in the Grand Canyon state. Quote, Charlie Kirk's assassination is tragic and a horrifying act of violence in America. We resolve our political differences at the ballot box. No matter who it targets, political violence puts us all in harm's way and damages our sacred democratic institutions, Hobbs wrote in her Friday veto letter. I will continue working towards solutions that bring people together, but this bill falls short of that standard by inserting politics into a function of government that should remain nonpartisan, which, by the way, yet another example of fascist tendencies that are beginning to make themselves known, the pushing of political ideology, especially political ideology associated with one particular party within that government, into nonpartisan areas of that government, is a classic part of the fascist playbook. So, legislation honoring Kirk, who lived in Arizona, passed in the state Senate in a 16-2 vote, and in the state House in a 31-23 vote. The state House and Senate are controlled by Republicans. Kirk was publicly assassinated on the campus of Utah Valley University last year. The 31-year-old was revered by the Trump administration and promoted conservative values on college campuses across the country through his organization, Turning Point USA. The nonprofit was founded in 2012. The bill would have allocated 17 of the $25 license plate fee to the conservative grassroots network Special Plate Fund, which in turn would make an annual donation to an organization founded in 2012 that helps with the voter registration at high schools and college campuses, according to the bill text. Turning Point USA was not specifically named as the benefactor. Right. They're not going to specifically name it as the benefactor. However, which political organization was founded in 2012 that helps with voter registration at high schools and college campuses? That couldn't be Turning Point USA, could it? No, surely it's another organization completely unrelated, right? Yeah, the fucking fact that they were just gonna funnel a bunch of fucking money into basically, is this just another fucking merch campaign? That's all that this is. This is literally just a state-funded fucking merch campaign. Which, thank God, got fucking vetoed. Because, yet again, we're seeing these people just trying to push politics into every aspect of our everyday lives. The accusation is made against me. Oh, Aiden, you're so political. You want to talk about politics all the time. Well, can you fucking blame me when every fucking aspect of our everyday lives are being politicized? To the point where we've got to see a fucking podcaster's face on a license plate because he got fucking shot over his fucking political beliefs. It's absurd. No. We shouldn't fucking make nonpartisan aspects of our government partisan because it's gonna get you some fucking political capital and make sure that fucking Turning Point USA makes a little bit more goddamn money on its merch on a state-sponsored fucking level. What was that thing about fucking fascist corporatism? What was that again? Isn't it the direct interjection and profiting of fucking corporate entities on the state level? The direct intertwining of the state in corporate affairs where they will literally scratch each other's fucking backs and make a bunch of fucking money off of each other. Fascist corporatism. 101. Fucking Turning Point USA is trying to make a bunch of money off of this dude's death by slapping his fucking face on a license plate and trying to get the fucking state to fund it for them. How the fuck is that not the definition of what I just said? State Senator Jake Hoffman, who sponsored the legislation. Oh, sorry, I missed one. I always try to avoid rereading things, but I accidentally missed one there. Specialty license plates for Arizona Life Coalition, an anti-abortion group, and the conservative Christian group Alliance Defending Freedom have been approved with a similar structure for donations. That's just fucking great. That's excellent. State Senator Jake Hoffman. Oh, by the way, Missing Mod is up in the stream now. Uses political violence to get their way. Hey, Mod. How's it going? Hey, if you don't like this current segment, I would encourage you, don't leave the stream. Jump over to the early part of the stream, because there's the silly segment. Alright? I always have my silly segment at the beginning of the show. If you don't like this, go and watch that. But before you do that, please like the stream, Missing Mod. And please like the stream, everybody out there, if you have not currently liked it at this point in time. Helps the channel grow, and it is greatly appreciated. So with that being said, State Senator Jake Hoffman, who sponsored the legislation, slammed Hobbs on Friday for vetoing a bill that would memorialize Kirk, describing her decision as a grotesque partisanship. Katie Hobbs' grotesque partisanship knows no bounds. Even in the wake of a global civil rights leader, an Arizona resident, and her own constituent being assassinated in broad daylight for his defense of the First Amendment, Hobbs couldn't find the human decency to put her far-left extremism aside simply to allow those who wish to honor him to do so, the lawmaker wrote in a statement to the social media platform X. Yeah, that's what's going on here. People aren't allowed to fucking honor Charlie Kirk by slapping his fucking mug on a license plate. Are you goddamn kidding me? You know what this reads to me like? This reads to me like that fucking Supreme Court decision that I talked about on one of my previous episodes on this fucking show. That was literally about how they tried to fucking play prayer over the megaphone, over the loudspeakers on the school during football matches. And the fucking conservative Supreme Court struck it down. Because if you want to pray, if you want to huddle in a little group and clasp your hands and say, "Oh, Lord Jesus Christ, please bless this football game and make sure that the FUBA game go my way," you're allowed to do that. Just don't play it on the fucking loudspeakers so that everybody else has to be subjected to it as well. And the same is the case for Charlie Kirk. You're perfectly capable of honoring Charlie Kirk by supporting Turning Point USA. You're perfectly capable of honoring Charlie Kirk by buying Charlie Kirk merch. You're perfectly capable of doing all of that shit. I like the stream at 4 a.m. Hell yeah, Missing Mod. Hell yeah, you're the real one. You're the real one. The first like on the stream was Missing Mod, ladies and gentlemen. Let the record state. But anyways, yeah, you are perfectly well within your rights and freedoms to honor Charlie Kirk. I would never try to take that away from you. But you don't have to fucking have Turning Point USA sponsored fucking license plates that are endorsed by the state and funded by the fucking state, where Turning Point USA directly fucking benefits from the fucking sale of those license plates. That's what this is about. It's not about not being able to honor Charlie Kirk. It's about not allowing the overt fucking corporatocracy, the corporate oligarchy, to slip fully into fascism. Because let's face it, America has been a corporate oligarchy for well over my lifetime and into the lifetimes of basically everybody in this community. It's been a corporate oligarchy for a long time, but it is slipping into overt fascism when these levels of partnerships are being purported. Moving on to the next article that we have here. Trump appoints Erica Kirk to Air Force Academy Board to continue Charlie's legacy. Yeah, it seems like Erica would be perfectly qualified to do a job like that. Air Force Academy Board? Yeah, I'm sure that's somebody that's actually tried to work their way up the fucking military hierarchy, tried to have a legitimate career within the United States Air Force. I'm sure they didn't feel disillusioned at all over the fact that rather than getting the post, Erica goddamn Kirk, a fucking podcaster's wife, got the fucking position instead. I can't believe it. Anyways, I don't think that this video is related, so let's read this. President Donald Trump has appointed Erica Kirk, widow of conservative activist Charlie Kirk, to the Board of Visitors that is in charge of making U.S. Air Force Academy recommendations to the Secretary of War and the President. Oh, excellent! I'm so glad to hear that. So there's going to be a bunch of fucking United States Air Force cadets whose entire fucking career being fast-tracked through the merit of their actions, that all swings on the decision of a fucking podcast host's wife. I'm so glad that she meritoriously fucking earned this position through the validity of her own actions, right? Just absolute overt cronyism. Yet again, another example. Big Bad Mama pointed one out earlier. related to Pam Bondi's husband. Or sorry, boyfriend. Was it husband or boyfriend? I forget. To be completely honest with you, it was like an hour and a half ago at this point. So truth be told, I forget. But in any case, we had one example there, and now we have another one with Erica Kirk. No qualifications in the military or Air Force whatsoever, deciding a bunch of young fucking cadets' career paths. As of March 10th, Kirk is listed on the U.S. Air Force Academy Board of Visitors website as an appointee of President Trump. Olivia Wales, White House spokeswoman, also confirmed her appointment in a statement to USA Today on March 10th. Quote, President Trump made the perfect choice in appointing Erica Kirk to the U.S. Air Force Academy Board of Visitors, Wales wrote in the statement. Yeah, I can't think of a better fucking choice. You know, somebody who's actually built their career on the Air Force and dedicated their life to the Air Force? Nah, fuck them, right? Let's just fucking put Erica Kirk in there. There are 16 seats altogether on the board, and among them are Republican and Democratic lawmakers from states such as Alabama, Colorado, and North Dakota, as well as retired Air Force Colonel Doug Stoley Nikolai. The board's responsibilities include looking into the Academy's morale, discipline, curriculum, instruction, physical equipment, financial affairs, academic methods, and other matters. Yeah, seems like a freaking talking head appointee if ever there was one. Certainly not a critical position within this fucking institution at all. Maybe the military will pay for Kirk's wife to get a sex change. That's pretty funny, Missing Mod. That's pretty funny. Missing Mod hitting us with the funnies today on this particular program. The board also makes recommendations to the Secretary of War, formerly the Secretary of Defense, and the President. The U.S. Air Force Academy said in a statement to USA Today on March 10th that it does not influence or take a position on the selection of individual board or of visitors members. The Academy added that it, quote, thanks all members of the USAFA Board of Visitors for their service and commitment to our mission. In accordance with federal law, board appointments are made independently by the President of the United States and congressional leaders in both the House and Senate, and the board provides reports and recommendations to the Secretary of War and Secretary of the Air Force, the statement read. Erica Kirk's late husband previously served on the board, according to the White House spokeswoman. That's good. That's good. You know what? That's actually the best qualification I've heard so far. It's a sad excuse of a qualification, but yeah, Charlie Kirk, a podcaster who has no experience in the United States military whatsoever, he served on the board, guys, so it's all good, right? Like, what? Huh? Charlie Kirk served proudly on the board, inspiring not only the next generation of service members, but millions around the world with his bold Christian faith, defense of the truth, and deep love of the country. I'm not hearing any military experience in that. Isn't it weird how people in this society have to have qualifications to be like the manager at a Denny's, right? If you want to be the manager at a local fucking Denny's or a local McDonald's, chances are on your resume, you're going to have to indicate that either you have a fucking degree at an institution, a college diploma, or at the very least, a demonstrated fucking service in that industry prior to being a manager. You at least need that. So you really mean to tell me that the qualifications for serving on a fucking extremely important board associated with the United States Air Force are lower than the qualifications to be a fucking manager at a fucking McDonald's restaurant? That's really the world that we've fucking come to at this point. I want a job with the military? Well, you know what, Mod? Now's the fucking chance. You don't have any experience with the United States military directly, but it seems like that doesn't fucking matter anymore. I'm sure they'll make you a fucking 4-star general. That's no insult on you. Like, I'm not saying that, like, you're a bad person because you don't have direct experience with the military. I'm just making a point that, like, now's the chance. If you want to join the military and not be a combat personnel, I guess you could probably end up on one of these boards, given the fact that you have about as many qualifications as Erica Kirk does. All right, I think that's about everything I can get out of that particular article. So, moving on, we have yet another example. Do you have to have military qualifications to work at a military museum? You know what, B.S. Lewis? If the military museum was a direct part of the military of Canada, then you'd have a really good point there. I guess it technically is. It's under the Department of Defense. So I guess it's technically part of the Canadian military. But, like, not in the sense of, like, training fucking personnel in the Canadian military. However, I would still say, even with that being the case, that I have more experience than Erica Kirk in that field too. Because I was a sergeant in the Royal Canadian Air Cadets. So at the very least, even if I didn't directly serve in the Canadian Armed Forces, if I wanted to, I could join the reserves of the Canadian Armed Forces and become a sergeant, as long as I pass through, there's a few exams you have to take. But I could become a sergeant if I wanted to. Get way better fucking pay than a private basic, that's for goddamn sure. Got him. No, I tried. You tried, BS. What you got? I'll give you this. You got to first base, but you never made a home run. And I feel like that's an experience BS has experienced often in life, only getting to first base. Aw, don't make fun of BS. I'm gonna drone strike you if you keep it up, Aiden. Oh, damn. Damn. Mod's gonna fucking put a Hellfire missile through my peephole, and then is probably gonna blame Canada on it. Oh, it was actually Canada that struck their own people. It wasn't the United States that hit Canada there. Anyways, I bet Cadet Lyndon was cute as a button in his little uniform. Oh, you don't even know the half of it, B.S. Lewis. You don't even know the half of it. You think that I got Brianna because I didn't look cute as a button in my little uniform? Hell yeah, I did. I was sharp as a tack. Sharp as a tack. I'm signing up to volunteer as a big cat at a big cat rescue place. That's awesome! I'm so glad to hear that you're going through with that, Missing Mod. I've heard you talk about that once or twice. So to hear that you're gonna go do that is fucking awesome. Hey, BS, try to make fun of that, dumbass. No, I'm just joking. How about you put that in your fucking pipe and smoke it, BS? Anyways, moving on to our next piece of overt cronyism that's taking place in the United States government. Melania Trump to chair UN Security Council as Iran war rages. Monday's event will mark the first time that either a First Lady or a First Gentleman has presided over a Security Council meeting. Melania Trump has dabbled in diplomacy before, having previously tried to secure the release of Ukrainian children abducted by Russia. First Lady Melania Trump is slated to chair a UN Security Council meeting on Monday, March 2nd, an appearance that was announced last week before the United States launched its war against Iran. Her office said that the former model would, quote, make history at the United Nations, taking the gavel as the United States assures the Security Council presidency to emphasize education's role. Assumes the Security Council's presidency to emphasize education's role in advancing tolerance and world And world peace. Yes, world peace. That's definitely what your husband has been promoting, hasn't it? It's been nothing but world peace. Or wait, is Melania's... No, Ivanka's his daughter, isn't it? Pretty sure this is his wife. Yeah, Melania Trump. I fucking thought so. It's weird, because Melania, she's a migrant, right? Melania is a migrant. And I hate to say it, but Melania just sounds more American of a name than Ivanka. So that's where the confusion always comes from. It's like, Ivanka, surely that's like a first-generation migrant name compared to freaking Melania. At least typically, but I guess not. It goes to show that you can break the mold and become so successful that even though you have no prior experience with diplomacy whatsoever on any kind of official level, you can go and chair a UN Security Council meeting because who appointed her again? Who was that? Oh, I wonder who it was that appointed her. Maybe we'll find out. Stéphane Dujarric, a spokesperson for the UN Secretary General, confirmed Melania's event would mark the first time a First Lady or First Gentleman has presided over a Security Council meeting. The U.S. will hold the Council's rotating presidency in March. President Donald Trump's third wife has dabbled... I love how they have to clarify third wife there. Has dabbled in diplomacy before, notably working to try and secure the release of Ukrainian children abducted by Russia. Okay, you know what? At least she has a little bit of experience then. You know what? I might take back a little bit of what I said before. At least she's, like, attempted to do diplomacy in the past. That's more than Erica Kirk, as far as chairing the fucking committee that she was on. So if she's tried to make overtures in the past to try and help out Ukrainian children, which, I mean, I'll have to look into that, see whether or not those overtures were successful. But at least she's kind of dabbled in diplomacy then. That's good. Political and financial tensions have mounted between the United States and United Nations in recent years, with Washington chafing at its role as the main contributor to the cash-strapped United Nations budget. Many observers say the U.S. president intends to bypass the Security Council with his so-called Board of Peace, which held its inaugural session in Washington last month, with several countries pledging funds and personnel to rebuild Gaza. Yeah. By the way, circumvention of wider international bodies. Oh, man. Which organization? You know, when Italy went into Abyssinia, or otherwise known as Ethiopia, and there was condemnation from the international community, that being the League of Nations at that time, rather than the United Nations. Which government was it that did that? Was it? I bet there was a bunch of communists that went and invaded Abyssinia. I'm sure that if you look up Benito Mussolini... No, wait. Fuck. It's the fascists again! God damn it! We keep coming around to the historical parallels, and yet they keep fucking pointing back to fascism. It's crazy. It's almost like, unlike the way that people like Wilson always try to portray it, where it's just people getting in their fifis, there's actually a shitload of specific examples that can be used to parallel those things. Huh. It's almost like when fucking Germany went and fucking fucking remilitarized parts of the Sudetenland and fucking rolled fucking tanks into Austria in order to reclaim Greater Germany as it was understood. That there were aspects of the international community that condemned him as well. And did he listen to them? No, he didn't. He circumvented them. God, that's crazy how that works. Hey, Robin. Welcome to the stream. Hope you're doing good so far today. Thank you for joining us today. Always a welcome and appreciated presence on these live streams. Maybe your Melania was a Ukrainian cadet. I don't think that she came from Ukraine, though. Where did Melania Trump? I thought she came from, like, fucking one of the Balkan countries. Hold on. Melania Trump is originally from Novo Mesto, Slovenia, formerly part of Yugoslavia. I thought so. I thought it was one of them. I thought it was one of them fucking weird Eastern European places where they're like Slavic, but they're not like the same kind of Slavic as what done the Russian people. Something like that. You know what I'm saying? No, I'm sure that she is perfectly qualified to do this, guys. Stop hating on her, all right? Stop hating on her. Your vicious attacks against the First Lady of the United States are not going to be tolerated around here. I'm on my phone falling asleep. Sorry if I disappear. Well, you know what? There's no better ASMR to listen to as you fall asleep than me going, God fucking damn it! Politics suck! Politics are doing this! Politics are doing that! I'm sure there's no better way to fall asleep. Melania is a Russian spy. Same thing, you know. It's the same place. Slovenia, Ukraine. They have the weird language where it looks like some weird upside down flipped over alphabet, so it doesn't matter. I think I'm actually wrong about that. I think Slovenia uses the Latin alphabet. Shit, never mind. Never mind what I just said. I take it back. Anyways, let's move on to our next segment. Trump insists Thune find votes to pass SAVE Act. He's got to be a leader. Let's see what Donald Trump has to say here and whether or not this is commentary or just quotes. Come on.
If you could have...
There we go. There we go. Let's listen to the beautiful words of our president, folks.
If I could ask the people in this room to go for the gold. We'll go for the gold. We're not going for the bronze. We're not going to sign a watered-down version like has been set up there. Let's go for the gold, and let's just not accept anything else. I'll tell you what, I'm willing to just sort of say I'm not going to sign anything until this is approved. I really am. That's how bad it is. And we're going to have to push the Senate because you have 4 or 5 senators that are, I don't know, 4 or 5 Republican senators. You have to explain them to me, but we're not going to get into that. But we're going to push them to get it done because I don't think you can politically exist if you're not going to do voter ID and these things. I don't think the people in this country will stand for it. So I'm making my biggest plea tonight. It'll make you, and I'm not doing it for this reason at all. It'll guarantee the midterms. It'll guarantee the midterms. If you don't get it, big trouble, my opinion. If you get this, your midterms, and they know it. For 2 reasons. Number 1, they won't be able to cheat. And number 2, the people are demanding it. Every time I go out, Save America, sir, Save America Act. We want the Save America Act, sir. That's all they talk about. They don't talk about housing. They don't talk about anything. That's what they talk about. And
yeah, they don't talk about housing. Nobody in America cares about the fucking skyrocketing prices of housing and the fact that the middle class owning a home is becoming less and less attainable as time goes on. No, nobody in America cares about that. What they care about more than anything else is voter fraud. Everybody else just happens to care about the exact things that I also happen to care about. Oh my gosh. So, anyways, I just wanted to bring up something that... Hold on here. It's down here somewhere. Because I've got it in my search history. It directly relates to this particular topic. Sorry, guys. I found it! Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate your guys' patience and waiting that one moment. All right, I got it pulled. There's 10 people here waiting for me to fucking pull this. God damn. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Please like the stream if you haven't already. So I have this pulled up. Let's just compare and contrast, right? let's compare what this has to say with what Trump just said. And you know what? I'm going to go back to what Trump said just to really fucking hammer the goddamn point home, just to make sure it's abundantly clear for everybody else.
It'll guarantee the midterms. It'll guarantee the midterms. If you don't get it, big trouble, my opinion. If you get this, your midterms, and they know it. For two reasons. Number one, they won't be able to cheat. And number two, the people are demanding it. Every time I go out...
Oh, really? So populism is now the reason why you're doing it. The people demanding it is the reason why you're going out and doing this? That's why you've released the entirety of the Epstein files, right, Trump? Because people demanded that you release the entirety of the Epstein files, and you ran on the notion that you were going to release the entirety of the Epstein files. So now all of a sudden, though, it turns out that it's all about populism. Trademark. Like, what? You're doing it because the people demand it. No, Trump. You're doing it because you know that if you don't rig the game in order to suit your own agenda and your own interests, that you're gonna get fucked in the midterms. So let's take a look at this article. Because now that we have an abundant understanding of the points Trump was making there, the primary and first one of which being that they won't be able to cheat, let's look at the results of lawsuits regarding the 2020 elections. The various claims of evidence alleging a stolen 2020 election have been exhaustively investigated and litigated. Judges heard claims of illegal voting and found they were without merit. Rep. Liz Cheney, the former chair of the House Republican Conference, stated on February 23rd, 2021, quote, "The president and many around him pushed this idea that the election had been stolen. And that is a dangerous claim. It wasn't true." Wait a minute. Liz Cheney? The former chair of the House Republican? No. You mean House Democratic Conference, right? House Democrat, because it's only the evil Democrats that say things against me, folks. Don't you know it? It's only the horrible, evil Democrats. No, it turns out that it was actually a Republican that said this against you, Donnie. Sorry to say. But, in any case, it wasn't true, she said. Quote, "There were over 60 court cases. 60. There were over 60 dozen. That's 5 dozen, by the way, just so you know. 5 dozen fucking court cases where judges, including judges appointed by President Trump and other Republican presidents, looked at the evidence in many cases and said there is not widespread fraud," end quote. CLCs researched the cases. Some, as referenced by Rep. Cheney, were withdrawn by the Trump team before the courts ever ruled or dismissed on procedural grounds. But many were decided on the merits. For a full case tracker, visit Election Law of Ohio State. But I just wanted to make it abundantly clear that this guy tried to find cases of voter fraud. He couldn't find them. He dragged this through the courts over the course of 60 fucking court cases, and he couldn't find a single example of election fraud whatsoever. The myth of election fraud crumbled in real time before his eyes. And the fact of the matter is that he doesn't give a fuck. He doesn't care. Because he's still going to propagate the fucking narrative that it was stolen in spite of all of the evidence indicating otherwise. But he's such a populist, right, guys? He really cares what the people and what the courts have to say. Because he's just such a fucking respectful president. Wow, ignoring what the courts have to say when they say that the election wasn't stolen, and ignoring the Supreme Court when it says that your fucking tariffs are illegal, and trying to invoke a completely different set of laws to literally just reinstate the tariffs in an attempt to try and grab a hold of whatever fucking semblance of authority you can from that situation and Supreme Court ruling. Ignoring the courts rather than actually doing what they say. Wow, what other organization had a chronic history of ignoring the courts? I wonder. What organization, when judges would tell them to back down on shit like this, would say, no, fuck that, we're gonna do what we want anyway? My dog is so cute. I mean, your dog is probably so cute when it's not freaking mauling the mailman or something like that. I'm sure he's adorable when he's not doing that. Little cutie. Raise him up for Zeke, ladies and gentlemen. Raise him up. Every single one of you. Raise him up for Zeke. Anyways. Moving on from that. Let's finish with what the rest of Donnie Two Toes has to say about this. Oh, whoops. I didn't share the screen. Silly me. And now for Blank Screen with Aiden. There we go.
Save America, sir. Save America Act. We want the Save America Act, sir. That's all they talk about. They don't talk about housing. They don't talk about anything. That's what they talk about. And if you send it up that you're going to win the midterms at levels that you can't even believe, and you're going to win every election for a long time until somebody really screws things up, and hopefully that won't happen.
Yeah, hopefully that won't happen. So let's read the accompanying article that comes with that. So, President Trump continued to lob pressure on Senate Majority Leader John Thune, RSD, to find votes to pass the Safeguard America Voter Eligibility, or SAVE Act, on Wednesday, saying Thune has got to be a leader. Well, he's got to be a leader. If he's a leader, he's got to get them, Trump told reporters at the White House. Wow, once again, we see a cult of personality where if they don't do what Trump wants them to do... By the way, what is the Senate part of again? Isn't the Senate part of the legislative branch of the United States as opposed to the executive branch of the United States? That's what I remember the Senate being, last I checked. So, with that in mind, why the fuck is the President of the United States basically saying that you're a shit fucking senator and you're not doing your job unless you push the fucking bill that I want pushed through? That's definitely not a great example of overreach of the executive branch onto the fucking legislative branch of the United States, though. No, not at all. God. It's the most popular bill I've ever seen. Oh, wait. Yeah, it's the most popular bill I've ever seen put before Congress. And it's voter ID, he continued. If it's the most popular bill that you've ever seen, then why are you fucking having to push to get votes, dude? If this really is the most popular vote, it's just bipartisan, it's sweeping all over the place. Then why in the same breath do you need to go, but if he doesn't get the votes required, he's not a leader? Like, what? Fuck, man. This guy cannot keep the fucking narrative straight. Isn't that just a fucking commonality between all of these jokers? All of these fucking people. They cannot keep the fucking narrative straight because they're all chronic liars. Every single one of them. Trump said the legislation would also block transgender participation in women's sports and restrict gender-affirming medical care. Additionally, Trump said the legislation would end fake mail-in ballots. I think it's the most popular bill I've ever put forward to Congress, he said. Thune told his Senate Republican colleagues on Tuesday that they do not have the votes to pass the legislation, which Trump has called his #1 priority. Wow, crazy how they don't have the votes to pass it, even though, according to Trump, it was the most popular one he's ever seen. Trump warned House Republicans in Florida on Monday that passing the SAVE Act would be critical to helping Republicans keep control of Congress in November. It will guarantee the midterms. If you don't get it, big trouble, he said. It's literally just so fucking overt! It's right there in front of your fucking face, people! He's literally saying that if they don't change the rules of the goddamn game, that they're gonna lose. So rather than losing because they're unpopular in a fucking republic, they're gonna change the rules. They're gonna change the whole fucking game to suit them. Because fuck democracy, right? Fuck the American Republic. Fuck rule of law. And fuck what the actual voting public has to say regarding my shitty unpopular government. Let's just implement a fucking poll tax so that we fucking get as many poor whites and poor fucking African Americans who predominantly vote Democrat out of the fucking political process. Do you know why this hasn't been a requirement prior to now? The reason why it hasn't been a requirement prior to now is because it requires money to acquire an ID. It requires money to acquire a driver's license. It requires money to do those things. So introducing a monetary cost to participate in politics is nothing short of a poll tax. It's nothing short of trying to disenfranchise certain groups of people so that he can rig the fucking game in his favor. I mean, for fuck's sakes, find me another explanation as to why he's pushing this now. If the Save America Act was so fucking critical, why didn't this get passed during his first term? Exactly. Why is it now that this is so fucking goddamn critical? That they just need to get it done right fucking now? I don't know. Call me a little fucking skeptical that this is just a requirement that needs to get pushed through. The goal is to prevent voters from voting in the 2026 election and to prevent the Democrats from impeaching him. He also put the dog whistle trans issues in there as raw meat to his followers. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. And keep in mind, the fucking trans dog whistle that he put in there is a fucking half measure, even in accordance to fucking the people who support him. Because according to his fucking tweet that I read on the other show, no transgender mutilation surgeries without parental permission, without parental consent. You can do it as long as the parents say it's okay. Way to go, guys. Way to go. As raw meat to his flowers. All right, you big, beautiful flowers. I've got a wonderful proposal to each and every single one of you. I know I removed you from Jackie Kennedy's garden, but I gotta tell you, you look much better over here. I don't know how to carry this joke forward. I'm just gonna eject that there joke. Anyways, I have a article pulled up here about poll taxes, and I wanted to get into that because it's one thing to just talk about poll taxes from a layperson's perspective, and it's another one to actually read about the poll taxes. So poll taxes in the United States. Poll taxes in the United States were fees that voters were required to pay in order to participate in elections, primarily prevalent in southern states after the Civil War. I wonder why. It's almost in a similar vein to the quote-unquote literacy tests that existed. By the way, I could definitely go through one of those fucking literacy tests, quote-unquote, on one of these streams, just to display how overtly fucking racist and classist that fucking shit really was. But anyways, initially intended as a means for states to generate revenue, these taxes became a significant barrier to voting, particularly for poor citizens, including many African Americans. Despite the legal right to vote established by the 15th Amendment in 1870, many African American voters were disenfranchised due to their inability to afford the poll tax. The implementation of poll taxes often coincided with Jim Crow laws, further reinforcing racial discrimination in voting practices. So prior to the civil rights movement of the mid-1960s, U.S. citizens in some states had to pay a fee to vote in an election. This was called a poll tax. Voters who could not afford to pay the poll tax could not legally vote. Poll taxes were most often found in southern states following the Civil War, but were levied in other states as well. Other citizenship privileges, such as voter registration and driver's licenses, were also connected to the poll taxes. Wait a minute. Other citizenship privileges, such as voter registration and driver's licenses, were connected to that, but I've been told by several fucking MAGA heads, several maggots, as you might call them, I've been told by them that this had nothing to do with the poll tax whatsoever, that a comparison to the poll tax is just ridiculous. So why is it in this article talking about poll taxes, completely unrelated to anything to do with the Save America Act whatsoever, why is it that it's talking about the exact same kind of shit? Poll taxes were not initially meant to prevent people from voting, but were a means to provide revenue to the government. However, the system of poll taxation did discourage many citizens from voting, especially those experiencing poverty. Following the 15th Amendment in 1870, black men gained the right to vote, but many were prevented from voting because they could not afford the poll tax. The former Confederate Southern states, in some cases, exploited the system of poll taxation to reduce the impact of black voters on elections. Following the Voting Rights Act of 1965, it became illegal to charge poll tax in any U.S. state. I believe that's the 24th Amendment that did that. It's either the 24th or the 26th. I get those confused sometimes, but I'm pretty damn sure it's the 24th. Before the U.S. became an independent, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, so there's a background about all of this, but I think that kind of adequately summarizes what I was trying to get into. It is irrefutably a poll tax, and the fact that it's so unpopular amongst the American people because it's recognized as such has led Donald Trump against the vein of Republican democracy to go and fucking put pressure on members of the legislative branch to push it through anyways, because it's his number one priority. And yet, when I went on a show last night and tried to talk about Donald Trump's overreach into the legislative and executive branches, I was called a fool and an idiot and all sorts of different things in exchange for doing that, which I found to be pretty funny indeed, in the face of the actual evidence that's provided here. But it's okay. They're able to have their heads in the sand. It's an ostensibly free country, which is what I told them on the program. It's an ostensibly free country, so you do have that. Anyways, I've got one last thing for you, ladies and gentlemen. I've got a palate cleanser. I'm going to try to do this at the end of each and every single one of my shows. Because, you know what? We're living in a day and age of such stress, such tumult. We about that. Something that doesn't involve my freaking background not properly playing because Restream is a inherently unreliable platform. No! Something that's not that, ladies and gentlemen. I have got some wholesome seal content for you. Because let me tell you, there's few things that make my heart happier than seeing some wholesome seal content. I don't have TikTok myself, so I don't really have too much control over this, but I'm going to try to get it playing properly. This is from Michael Boyd on TikTok, so please give him a like if you do have TikTok. I'm pretty sure the percentage of my audience that has TikTok, probably pretty low. I'd be willing to venture a guess and saying it's probably pretty low. But go and check them out. And with that being said, let's take a look.
Imagine fighting someone, but you're too lazy to move and your hands are too short to actually hit them. Well, that's what's happening between these two seals right here. They're having a disagreement because one of the seals is too close to the other, so they swat their foreflippers aggressively, hoping one will move. But most of the time, they just give up and go back to sleep.
Oh, man. That is the most seal behavior I've ever seen in my life. They'll just weakly kind of go, get out of here. Get out of here. This is my sleeping spot. And then most of the time they'll just go, oh, fuck it. I really can't, quite frankly, be bothered to worry about this anymore at this point. I'm just going to bed. I'm going to bed. I'm calling it quits. That's it for me.
And then I saw a baby seal by the waterline get hit by a wave. The pup then quickly galumped to her mom for safety. Now let's watch this baby seal galump in sync with their mom.
For the record, galumphing is the official name for when seals flop around like this on the beach. Just so you know, there's a little bit of nature knowledge for you on this platform. Galumphing.
Baby seals in this video are only about 1 to 2 weeks old, so they're still trying to learn how to properly galump. This pup was begging her mom for some attention. She even starts kissing and rubbing her body against her mom. Then I saw this baby seal scratch his mom's back during a swim lesson. Everything was going great until the baby found himself in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Uh-oh.
He seemed like he was a little tired after his swim lesson, so he was resting on the sand. That's when a wave came and rolled him like a gas station hot dog.
No!
Then the mom showed up to make sure he was okay. These videos...
Aww. The mom, they literally came up there like, you okay? You alright, buddy? Everything alright with you? Aww.
Videos were filmed from a designated viewing area. Never approach a mom and a baby seal. The mom will feel threatened and she'll abandon the baby, then the baby will not survive. Thanks for watching my video.
Oh god, I didn't know that. Yeah, don't approach. Do not approach the seals. Don't do that. Because they'll abandon the baby, and you don't want that to happen. Do you really want those the wholesome little baby seals? You don't want those things to die, so what you're gonna do is you're gonna look at them from the designated viewing area and watch their silliness from a distance. Just as God intended, ladies and gentlemen. And with that being said, with that wholesome palate cleanser at the very end of the show, I'm going to play us out with our outro. Thank you very much to each and every single one of you. Big Bad Mama, Missing Mod, let's see, B.S. Lewis, Proverbs Guys Ministries, Pixie Storms, Skate 17, Robin Webster, Reexamination, let's see, Phantom X11, Mr. Logo. We got anybody else up here in the side chat? A Spooky Bedhair, Claude Balls, Christian Pike, Professor Hizzle. Anybody else? Let me just double check. No, that appears to be everybody. Thank you very much to each and every single one of you who tuned in today. It was a very fun show. And with that being said, have a good one, guys.